ghostly mark. Cobwebs twine and shadows dance in this twilight somber trance. Candles flicker, weary wicks, ancient echoes, time's cruel tricks. Marble figures, frozen pose, amidst the silence sorrow grows. Whispering shadows, secrets keep in the depths where night meets sleep. Underneath the velvet gloom, guardians of the haunted room. Chandeliers in crystal tears reflect forgotten yesteryears, softly chanting distant cries. Through the arches sorrow sighs. Gargoyles watch with stony gaze, guardians of endless maze. Pipe organ's breath begins to rise, filling air with mournful ties. Whispering shadows, secrets keep in the depths where night meets sleep. Underneath the velvet gloom, guardians of the haunted room.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am ostensibly a Lady Red, and you guys should be able to hear me. And I do have a lictor, though I'm going to make a guess, a wild stab in the dark, that OBS has decided lictor doesn't exist. Do you exist, lictor? You do not exist. Let us fix this. I will manifest a lictor. I have this power. Let's try that.
That would, by and large, set you up as a magistrate of the Roman Imperium. Because that's precisely what it means, having a lictor. Now all I need to now all I need to do is behead something, and behead something or someone on your behalf, and we can run for the Senate. I believe that's how it works.
I mean, I'm down for that. Why not? Why not? Do we need a triumvirate to run for the Senate, or do you reckon we can just do it with the two of us?
I mean, it won't be the same without a triumvirate, but one of us has to be filthy rich and the other guy has to be an idiot, and I refuse to be the idiot.
Well, you can be filthy rich, I'll be the idiot, and the third person is supposed to make all the connections, so clearly we need Mo. Mo needs to be the third part of our triumvirate.
Very good.
There we go, we sorted it. We'll take over Rome.
Very good. I already have my man on the ground.
You do. A friend is over there.
Yes, he is. He got lost for 10 hours in the Vatican. 10 hours.
I mean, that is an extensive amount of time, but getting lost in the Vatican also sounds very, very plausible.
It was. I will just quote him this once. The stuff they put to signify the toilet is the same sort of stuff most museums would use as the main exhibit and give an entire room to.
So Orcslayers
Yeah.
is suggesting we needed Zork for the triumvirate for war crimes. Meanwhile, Zork's like, no, I'm just over here planning on sacking Rome during your all's reign. That's fine. You can be the barbarians at the gate. We'll have a grand time. It'll be very fun.
I mean, is it war crimes if we sanction it?
I mean, technically, if he's attacking us, I don't think permission has to be given, so it can still definitely be war crimes, even if we're having fun.
Yeah, but then he'll have to dress up as a goth mm, questions. The entire business with the makeup and all of that.
I mean, I used to do that in my youth, but good news, chat. If anybody's in the market for a goth boyfriend, a war crime goth boyfriend, apparently, Zork's out there.
Yep, there you have it. I mean, okay, Chet has. We are going to talk about the absolute ruinous thing you've done with Hungry Like the Wolf.
I mean, we can talk about that. Yeah, we've certainly automatically dropped off the deep end into areas I was not anticipating talking about today the moment we got here. So, that's great. Tide German says, greetings from preparing the EU Orcs meetup. Tomorrow is the day. I hope you guys have the best time and that there will be photos. As applicable for privacy reasons, but have a wonderful time, make many memories.
Yes, have fun.
Yes, and memories are very important. Very important. I've had a bit of a week. I know I always say that every week. This week was special. I've had a bit of a week. I think most people have at some point become aware of it, but I unfortunately did get into a car crash earlier in the week due to weather. Aiden is a very good driver, but sometimes weather decides that, what is friction? We've decided that nobody believes in that anymore. And some Final Destination nonsense happened, and it is a shock to me that in that accident, nobody walked away with so much as a bruise. So it's been an emotional roller coaster this week, and we might be saying goodbye to our dearly beloved Mitsubishi Eclipse. But we're here. That's what matters. Every week is its own type of torture, yes. Yes, of one form or another. So, yeah, friction and gravity, corporate oppression, I mean, yeah. I could probably show you guys a photo. I don't think it would be an issue to show it on Twitch briefly. I mean, as I say, nobody got hurt, but it certainly...
Mitsubishi got hurt.
Yeah, Mitsubishi got hurt, and it's quite an evocative photo, but I can show you guys. Let me see. What image did we have left up last time instead of my shoal crab? Oh, yes, I was showing off Sidewinder. Right, let's change the what that's pointing to, and I will show you guys the time we had this week.
Look, Kale has both hands in there.
Yes, this will be possibly the only time he ever gets drawn with both hands.
Yep.
For stealing one slightly damaged, used Eldar, who may or may not have to get used to being called Kyle. Okay, let's change this over. That should fit. Yeah, that's got the relevant parts. This was our week, chat. It was a time.
Events have been happening.
Yes. So thankfully, Aiden was driving on his own, and even if there had been somebody in the seat, they probably wouldn't have impacted that. But it's a photo. It's a photo. We were reminded of our own mortality this week. But as I say, nasty accident, 60 mile an hour on the highway. Of the people involved, nobody had so much as a bruise. 0 injuries all round. So I'm very happy about that. Very, very happy about that. And it's, kind of thrown my week off a little bit, which, I think you guys will appreciate that might be a thing that happens. So I spent yesterday and the day before on a mad dash trying to catch up on the work I didn't do at the beginning of the week because, Mitsubishi decided to Final Destination itself. You appear to have hit a towel rail gun. I think for Aiden it certainly felt that way. But yes. It was a time. But I do have shoal things. I do have Hungry Like the Wolf updates. You guys are going to get to insert some more absolute nonsense into the bullshittery that we are already doing. And I have a talking topic that I wanted to go over today that came as a result of the Hungry Like the Wolf rewrite. Can't type due to beer. That is a very common problem with computers, yes. Light piercing of the car. Yeah, just a wee bit. Just a wee bit. Okay, so where do we want to start? Do you guys... I think we'll finish with you guys giving ideas for the Hungry Like the Wolf rewrite for some of the chapters that I still have to come at. We'll do that at the end because that's a nice cool down. So it's really a case of, do we want to start with a talking topic, or do we want to jump straight into Shoal stuff, or do you guys want to do something else? Talking and chat and writing related. The chat can be hella dumb. Yes. You have opinions?
But I have opinions, but I want chat's opinion because I want to blame them if I get it wrong.
Well, that's what chat exists for. Absolutely, chat's fault.
See? I knew it.
Orc Slayers, you can have a random third subject if you provide a subject, and I will attempt to have an opinion on it.
I can have opinions on 2 things at the same time.
My God, you're talented.
Sometimes it's not even the same opinion.
Zork has suggested cheese, Orc Slayers has suggested sharks. I have opinions about cheese because I like cheese, but cheese doesn't like me. I am one of the 20% of the population that just cannot process lactose. And if there is one crime on this earth that we should probably be punished for as a species, it is lactose-free cheese. I have yet to find one I enjoy.
The opinions.
Yes. Worth the suffering? It is sometimes worth the suffering. There will be days where I'll be like, you know what? The tummy pain is tomorrow me's problem. I just need to have me a little bit of cheese or a little bit of ice cream or a little bit of both. Maybe not at the same time. And yeah, I do sometimes make regrettable decisions. The one that I'm most common to make a regrettable decision about, though, is creme brulee. I cannot resist me a creme brulee. Very bad for me.
My favorite is tiramisu.
Tiramisu's also very, very nice. I'm not going to have an opinion on sharks because the Shoal stuff today is going to touch on sharks because our Archaea girl turns up in the writing that I've done. So we'll get to sharks there.
Did we ever give her a name?
Yes, she now has a name. Random 4 subject funny horse racing game. So horse racing game has just had a big update. Yesterday, the Trailblazer scenario dropped, better known as Mant, make a new track to people who spend far too much time on Horse Girls because of the Japan release, which is obviously ahead of the global release. I've only done 1 run on Mant so far. It's a very different career style to the other 2 scenarios that have been released. I have not watched any guides on, how to make the best of it, etc., but I did do a single run last night of Sakura Bakushino on the new scenario, and I did make a more powerful Bakushin than I've had before without really knowing what I was doing. So this bodes well for being able to juice my haunces a little bit more, though it does also make me cry inside because I'm going to need to do this for all of my team trials haunces because, yeah, if I made the best haunts I've made so far, and I don't know what I'm doing, I imagine everybody's going to be super juicing, and yeah, my current team is not going to stand up anymore, so I'm going to have to play some haunces this weekend.
How terrible.
How terrible.
Whatever will it... Oh, right, you'll play Hansing.
Yes, I will in fact play Hansing. I'm currently watching the 3rd season of the anime as well, and watching Golshi do Golshi things, which always makes me happy.
Is it available on Crunchyroll?
I can send you a link if you want to watch it. It's got all 3... Okay, we've got a place you can watch all 3 seasons and Cinderella Grey. I don't know if Birth of a New Generation is on there yet or not, which I am very excited to actually sit and watch that. I know a lot about Birth of a New Generation, but I haven't physically watched it, and I really want to.
Oh no. We'll watch awesome things together.
I mean, awesome things is a way of putting it, but yeah, Corbin started watching Uma Musume this week because of me, and his response to the first episode was explosively asking very valid questions that did not have very sensible answers.
That is fair. Is Corbin with us tonight?
I don't see him at the minute. That's not to say he won't pop in at some point.
I have a question
Shoal
for
Tucky
Corbin
Derby
later.
weekend. Oh dear. Oh no. Hopefully not based off of anything I told you, because I super condensed. Poor Lictor. I have bludgeoned him over the head with lore this week, with ridiculous sketches, and then I also bludgeoned him with the Hungry Like the Wolf rewrite, because somebody has to listen to me read it aloud.
I have subjected you to bad Norse religious
No, that
texts.
was the coolest thing. I should read that to chat. That was a fantastic thing. I stole it and shoved it in my
Okay.
server as well. That'll be the quickest place to find it. You also bullied the AI into making the best art that I definitely can't show on stream.
You can. I mean, if the AI agreed to make it, doesn't it tacitly mean it's not a problem?
With the
Never
amount
mind.
of boobs and the face expression there, we're not risking it. We are
I
not risking
did
it.
not believe it will happen on a publicly available set of AI.
All chat needs to know is that this wonderful image that you did for me declares me the Knight of Romance Reforged, granted the Medal of Gallant Literary Tingling for valiant efforts in the name of whole ass shitposting, and there is a pot on the desk, an entire pot of Make It Gayer. I have a pot of Make It Gayer, and this makes me very happy.
And there's also the book that says more tentacles.
Yes.
Okay. There are several orders in that image that I did not give the AI.
May your runes be filthy and brilliant is a wonderful thing.
Yes.
We have some fun with words. they lead to
Yes.
things. We can't have a blurred version. That would involve me having to go in and actually make a blurred version. I might do that later and then share it on the Orcs in the vague hope that Boss Bear and Exemplars don't come and promptly beat me with sticks.
I can test it by Boss Bear and ask him.
Okay.
Let's see. Can I find me a bear? Mm-hmm.
Okay. While you're doing that, I will read this wonderful Norse prayer for writers. Spit of truce burst thin wisdom, pale counsel in a peace bowl, ghost thought walking the world with no iron in its breath. Then dwarf blades opened the skull of knowing, Kvas's red runes ran into honey vats. There the bee-gold thickened with murder's memory, a draught fit for tale weavers, for rune scratchers of dark deeds. Not for clean tongues, nor milk-hearted scribes, the word hoard ripens only in blood, sweetness, and vice. So drink the wound mead, carve the sin runes, loose the red-tongued tales. May your hand never falter, may your ink run deep as Kvas's blood, and may the honey of giants darken every word you wake. Which, you know, for a prayer for writers is pretty fucking metal, and I kind of loved it.
Last time you asked me to compose, no. Last time you said say a prayer for me, and I went ahead and composed something from Psalms and old Hebrew letters.
Yep, you drafted up proper Hebrew, which confused many people mightily, because when you post that into Discord, it's like backwards, and you can't just Google search it, and it was very fun watching people try to figure out what just happened.
Yes, and now we went Norse. Next time, I'm either delving Chinese or Hindu. just one by one. We will take one pantheon at a time.
And I do ask for prayers quite often while dealing with the Hungry Like the Wolf rewrite. Also, I see
He
Mo is
does.
here and has said if you ask for a bear
Hello.
on here, you will not receive what you expect. Yes, wrong kind of bear. However, we've decided that you are the third part of our triumvirate for conquering Rome. You've been voluntold. Just so you know.
Yes. We're going to have to use your connections.
Yes.
I'm willing to be filthy rich, though.
I'm willing to be an idiot, and you need to be the mover and shaker.
Exactly. You can be Kaiser. Kaiser.
Sure
I
digs
had
is
to
somewhere.
explain-
Yes.
I had to explain to Abe everything about pronunciation, which is weird because he's the one living in the US. Never mind. Okay, enough about Rome. Okay, I've been vicariously in Rome.
A
That's
lot
also
lately,
the
yes.
Yes. I'm going to, the moment they start shipping anything except F-35s to my region, I'm going to be importing so much coffee.
Yeah, so we need to sort of deport the things that are in the way first, and then we can worry about the
Yes.
coffee.
Yes, no, but listen, there are orders of importance in this world, and the bean juice.
That's pretty up there. It's pretty up there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I understand. Bombs, airplanes, food, but a man needs to program, okay? A man needs to program, and you can't do that without proper supply of bean
Caffeination.
juice.
Yep, very important.
Exactly.
Alrighty, what do we want to do, chat? Do we want to do talking topic first, or do we want to do show stuff first? One or two,
Go on.
chat. The Moor Legion will follow our Red Lady and Arc Lictor. Excellent. Shoal, you want to do Shoal first? That works for
Let's
me.
do
We'll
Shoal
see if there's
first.
a couple of other answers. If not, then we'll just throw ourselves at Shoal. I can certainly do that.
We did toss ourselves. We did respond to the topic of cheese, and we are going to
did.
bring up sharks.
We are.
So
Yes, so we're doing well, and actually that might be the most sensible order to do things in. I'm going to give you the chat for just a second, Lictor. I just need to go and sort one quick thing out with Sarah, so then I can settle in and read with you guys and not be interrupted. So I shall be right back.
yes. Goody. Yes, Chet. Mine. So I've been listening to weird YouTube music lately. Someone has been trying to use Sisters of Battle and Godsman as a source of Bawdy Tavern music, and it's stupid and glorious. So I've been having way too much fun with that bullshit. Also, someone made a version of Diggy Diggy Trench for the Imperial Guard, and I was like, ah, yes, I've been waiting for it. I need not think of this, or I will make it real. I mean, yeah, well, you can be our connections. Lurking, yes, Night Owl is lurking. Wait, what? Connecting to chat. Chat. Connecting. Hello. Ah, we have Wolfslails here, and Tyler German, and Zork, and Eric is here, and Bullisnake. Yes, it's good.
I believe that is known as the
Flicker.
usual suspects.
Yes, no, Catgirls Canon is kind of... and it works by Kevin Delta. And there is no plan. Yes, Doctor Who, you understand, Catgirls are canon. Yes.
I'm
Yes,
not going to
yes.
ask. I am not going to ask. I was gone for moments, and I'm not going to ask.
Listen, it is glorious. Diggy Diggy Trench by the Kriegsman. Ah, yes. You see,
Alright.
I just have to say, I used to put my kids to sleep to Diggy Diggy Hole. This is how I used to put them down, put them to sleep. Whenever we didn't feel like putting out Nightwish, like we had come to the conclusion that babies need to go to sleep to good sound. It's like they need to build up their tolerance. If they don't go with Sonata Arctica, how will they go to sleep with Argent Metal by 16?
Which is very
Like-
important.
You understand? You understand?
But I listen to Three Teeth, like, daily, so yeah.
I understand. No, I'm a soft person. I use Powerwolf and Sonata
Nothing wrong with that.
Arctica and bullshit like that to get me going, and then Catgirls are canon. Because yes, they did indeed go to sleep to Diggy Diggy Hole. They did on long drives, on long nights. It's just it's training. It's like soldiers. You put them through boot camp, and you can get them to sleep to anything.
And there is nothing quite as comfortable as a child who has decided that it is nap time, regardless of what ridiculous position they are in.
Exactly.
The same can also be said of dogs, who do that for their whole life. Anyway, right, let's do some reading because we are nearly halfway into half an hour into our slot, and yeah, we've got lots to go over this week, so we will push on.
Yeah.
So when we were here last week, I read to you the beginning of chapter 5, where we had our team having their first exploration around some of Chorax, our abandoned city, and some notes were made about making sure that we noted that Mags had a drone with her. I went back and edited that in, and a little bit of talk about, archaeology and how to do things correctly. So I'm going to start just a little bit before where we ended last week, because it has a little bit of that new stuff added in, and then I'll let it flow straight into the stuff that I've added. They regrouped at the main avenue. The plaza lay visible ahead, Echo's bulk a reassuring silhouette, Nick a squat protective shape at one edge. They'd only gone a few blocks. Already Jake's mind felt full of abandoned stalls and resin toys and clever pre-tightened pulleys, of abyssal children, deep-bodied and laughing, clambering over spikes that now held only silt. Initial survey complete, Magarel said over the shared channel as they made their way back. Structures within immediate radius stable. No quiet residue detected. Manuals, loggers and artefacts marked for potential salvage. Farm cave noted. The city still has much to teach us. We've only walked its outer rooms, Umi added gently. The inner library, the towers, that is for later. Jake slowed a little, watching Magarel's drone swing back towards her shoulder after one last sweep of the avenue. Magarel? He asked. Was it really all right to move the things we did? He glanced back towards the food quarter. The barnacle, the toys. On Earth, archaeology gets obsessive about context. What's on top of what, where exactly it was found, what layer it sat in. Sometimes moving something too early means losing the actual information. Magarel's colours darkened, not in annoyance this time, but thought. The drone rotated once in place and then settled. That is not wrong, she said. It is simply easier on land. Jake frowned. Because everything down here drifts? Because everything down here drifts, she echoed, and settles, and lifts again when the currents change, or the season turns, or a scavenger decides that your precious context looks like a good nesting patch. Sediment does not behave here as it does in dry ruins. Layers slump, streets silt in, scour out and fill again. A shell that lay undisturbed for 10 years may roll 3 body lengths in one storm pulse. Umi's shroud brushed Jake's in quiet agreement. Underwater ruins remembered differently, he said. Exactly, Magarel said. So we record differently. We map where we found a thing, we scan its orientation, nearby growth, silt load, current direction, any trace chemistry still clinging to it. My drone is not merely taking pretty pictures, Jacob. It is building a contextual shell around every item we flag. The little machine bobbed once, almost smugly. If we are lucky, Magarel went on, that gives us enough of the object's last useful context to say something intelligent later. If we are very lucky, we find sealed spaces where the current has behaved itself and the old rules matter more. So it's not the context doesn't matter, Jake said slowly. It's that underwater archaeology has to accept that the ocean has already been editing the site for centuries. Magarel pointed one suited arm at him. Yes, good. And keep thinking like that, and you may yet think like a Shoalie. Careful, Umi said, shroud warm with mischief. Compliment him too often and he'll start expecting it, Mags. Her chromatophores flattened to a deeply unimpressed slate. There is still no S. Hodaka's laughter spilled bright through the water, and even Jabra made a dry clicking sound that might have been approval. Then the plaza opened up before them again, Echo's bulk waiting in their little island of light, and the dead city resumed its patient silence around the camp. By the time they returned, Chorax no longer felt quite so much like a wound and more like a place with its breath held. That did not make it safe. It did not make the thinness in the song any less uncanny, or the broken lines of old life any less poignant. But Jake's mind was fuller now. The city was no longer only the quiet in its aftermath. It was barnacle wine and shelter grills, resin toys and overgrown farms, old workshop grooves polished by generations of hands. Enough little, ordinary things had survived to remind him that Chorax had once been beautifully alive. The plaza's work lights glimmered ahead in a slow constellation, Echo's broad silhouette rising behind them like a crouched shrine. Nick remained where they had left him, half folded at the plaza's far edge with his lights dim and his shroud banked low in sleep. Jabra's security crew had anchored a perimeter line of little warning beads along the old road, and the Podlands had set a cooker going near the centre of camp. The water there carried the first faint trace of food. Jake's shoulders loosened a little. And then I have made a mistake because I have repeated a line that was said above here, so I'm going to take that out and change this, and then this will flow correctly. There we go. He glanced once more towards the dark beyond the work lights, where the road curved away into old neighbourhoods and then vanished into silt and time. There would be time enough to push against all of that tomorrow. For now, camp looked almost inviting. They were perhaps 30 body lengths from the plaza when Kilo made a small sound inside his implant. Not quite a warning, more like a curious little throat clear. "Jake," she said, "there is a Susella on the ridge." He slowed. "What?" "It is one of the Salatian symbiotes," Kilo said. "Small, alive, watching us." Jabra's claws stopped clicking against the old stone. "Where?" she asked, instantly sharper. Kilo put a tight marker on Jake's HUD. Up and to the left, where a broken rise of plaza walls sloped into a cluster of half-collapsed market ridges, two little glimmers peered back from a nest of algae and fractured coral. One pair of glimmers, then another. "Two," Jake murmured. "Strange," Umi said softly. "A Susella should not be without its host for long." "They aren't," Jabra said, and then she was gone. Jake actually startled. One moment she had been in the water beside them, broad-shelled and very visible. The next, she slipped sideways into the maze of broken stone with the bonus efficiency of someone who had spent a lifetime doing deeply illegal things in crowded places. The others stopped. Magarel's drone rose a little higher, optics narrowing to track. 3 heartbeats passed. Then there was a muffled yelp from the ridge. Jabra rose out of the ruin like an unpleasant surprise, wearing a grin, one massive claw hooked very carefully around the back of a small body she held aloft with insulting ease. The child twisted once in her grip, all sleek muscle and offended dignity. She was Arkir. Jake saw that at once, even before Kilo's tags filled in. Young, yet not fully grown, all long lines and narrow shoulders, and a tail that still looked like it had more growing to do. Her skin patterned in darker bars over storm grey, with pale markings at the jaw and gill seams. 2 Susella, each the size of a large cat, spiralled anxiously around her, little fins flaring. "Well now," Jabra said, utterly unruffled, "what have we here?" The girl froze, broad black eyes flickering from Jabra to the others to the plaza behind them. Her shroud was a sudden fizz of alarm, embarrassment, and furious curiosity. Youth turned up to an impossible volume. "Not from Chorax," Magarel said at once. "Obviously." "No," Umi agreed, shroud already softening as he took in the child. "Likely local." Jake felt something in his chest unknot at the sight of her. A child. Not a resin toy, not a creche full of ghost handholds and old ache. A real, living child, healthy and bright and glaring at Jabra like she fully intended to bite her if given the chance. Jabra, to her credit, did not seem remotely threatened. "Easy," she said, though whether to the child or the circling Susella was unclear. "You don't live here, so where do you live, little shadow?" The girl's gills flared. She said something quick and sharp in a language Jake's implant didn't quite catch, then clamped her mouth shut hard enough that her jawline tightened. Magarel made a little thoughtful noise. "Not city trade, local dialect, I think. Gleamwake fringe, maybe." Umi drifted closer, lower hands raised in an open, calming gesture. "Captain," he said mildly, "she may answer more readily if she is not being held like stolen cargo." Jabra clicked once in the back of her throat. "She was hiding over our camp with 2 symbiotes and no permission." "She's also a child," Umi said. Jabra gave him a look that suggested that she had in fact noticed. Then, with exaggerated care, she lowered the Arkir girl and let go. The child hit the ground moving, 2 strokes backwards, tail lashing, body low and ready to bolt. Her Susella whipped to her immediately, adhering with practiced ease behind her forefins, one on each side like living gauntlets. Their little bodies flattened happily into place, fins fanning in nervous synchrony. For a second, Jake thought she really would flee. Then she saw him. Her whole body stiffened. The two Susella paused too, their bright little eyes fixing on the human in the suit. The girl's shroud brushed his. Not carefully, not politely, just a young, unfiltered sweep of curiosity. It was strong for someone her age, bright as sun on water, and utterly unconcerned with subtlety. Questions cascaded through it faster than any translator could keep up. Not fear, not exactly. Wonder. Jake lifted one hand slowly. "Hi," he said, and heard how absurdly small the word sounded in the middle of a dead city at the bottom of the sea. "I'm Jake." The girl stared. Then, with visible effort, she looked away from him long enough to flick a glance at the others, as if checking whether this bizarre apparition was in fact part of the group and not some private hallucination. "He's real," Hordaka said helpfully, grinning. "We asked." That earned the first visible shift in her expression. Not a smile exactly, but something loosening around the eyes. Jake looked towards the cooker in the middle of the plaza, where the Podlands were now openly pretending not to watch. "We were heading back to eat," he said, keeping his voice easy. "You can come with us if you want. Sit, have something, ask questions." He hesitated, then added, "Tell us a little bit about where you're from?" The girl's shroud fizzed harder. Curiosity warred with caution. Caution lost on points. She gave a tiny, deliberate nod. Jabra made a pleased sound. "There, diplomacy. Knew there had to be a use for you." "Thank you," Jake said. "You're welcome, soft shell." They eased back toward camp together, and though the girl kept her distance at first, she didn't retreat. Her gaze moved constantly, over Jake's suit, over Umi's tail, over Magarel's drone, and most of all towards the sleeping bulk of Nick at the edge of the plaza. Jake noticed that every time her attention landed on the Tide Warden, her shroud sharpened into something almost reverent. At the cooker, the quartermaster looked up, saw the extra mouth, and sighed like a man being proven right by the universe. "I knew we were being watched," he muttered. "No expedition ever lands in old ruins without collecting strays." "Can you feed one more?" Umi asked. "I can feed 10 more, the Podland said, offended. "What do you think I am, an amateur?" They settled around the warm core
I
of camp.
love him so much.
Good.
Spoken like the support character in every adventuring team ever.
They settled around the warm core of camp in a loose ring. The cooker's heating elements cast a soft amber light through the water, enough to mimic the feel of a fire even if no flame could survive here. The others, sensing novelty, drifted closer by degrees until the child found herself at the centre of a half-circle of adults and one very interested human. She didn't seem to mind. Once she'd been given a shallow shell bowl of hot broth and something wrapped in softened algae sheet, she relaxed enough to answer Umi when he asked her name. It came out first in her own dialect, 2 quick sounds and a click that Jake's implant almost mangled, then again slower so the translators could chew on it. "Sivan," it rendered finally. Jake repeated it carefully. "Sivan." Her eyes flicked to him, measuring his pronunciation. Apparently satisfied, she nodded once. "And your village?" Magarel asked. Sivan said another phrase, longer this time. The translators struggled, compared notes, then gave up and offered Umi the bones of it. He listened, tasted the cadence, and gave Jake the nearest version. "A place of rising swells," he translated. Jabra snorted softly. "Poetic." "All proper places are poetic if you listen to them in their own tongue," Umi said. Sivan had stopped eating and was staring at Jake again. It was not rude, exactly. More like she couldn't quite convince herself he was ordinary enough to stop looking at. "You are from outside the world," she said at last, trade common stumbling but understandable. "That is true?" Jake smiled. "Yeah, true." "There are more places than the cities?" she asked. "More than Gleamwake? More than Merinport? More than Songorge? More than Sulayan?" Jake let out a quiet breath. There it was, that tilt in perspective he still hadn't gotten used to. The way Shoal could be so huge and still be only one bead in the necklace. "So many more," he said. "Songorge is one city. Shoal is one moon. There are other moons, other planets, other stars. Other worlds with their own oceans, or no oceans at all. Simon stared at him as if he had just calmly announced that rocks could sing. No oceans? She repeated. Some, Jake said, trying not to laugh. And some have almost none. That is a cruel world. Kind of is, he admitted. Hodaka barked a laugh. Umi's shroud warmed with amusement. Even Magarel's colours softened a little. Simon leaned closer, broth forgotten. How far? Jake considered how to answer that without accidentally giving an astrophysics lecture to a child in a dead city. Far enough, he said slowly, that if you started swimming now, you'd still never get there. Farther than your village, farther than the whole Gleamwake, farther than all the cities and currents in Deep Dark put together. Simon sat back, visibly trying to fit that into a brain that had grown up measuring distance in tides and reefs and migrating fleets. Then, like any sensible child, she pivoted to an even more important subject. The Titans, she said. Hodaka brightened instantly. Yes? Her gaze slid to Nick again. I felt him when you came down. Him and the temple one. She tipped her head towards Echo with a kind of respectful wariness, then back to the sleeping warden. There are no Titans where I live. The elders say they are too loud and too expensive and always bring trouble. But he... She frowned, trying to find the shape of it. He feels young. Jake turned his attention to Nick as well. With Simon's common in his head, he could feel it more clearly. The tone in the Titan's sleeping shroud, still banked, still resting, but lively around the edges. Echo's was deep-tied in age. Nick's had the same brightness as Simon's. Not identical, but a cousin to it. A springy, unfinished quality. Curiosity not yet worn smooth by years. It hit Jake with a small, warm force. To the Shoalie, this was no metaphor, no sentimental anthropomorphism. She wanted to meet him because she recognised something in him that felt her own age. He is young, Hodaka said, unable to keep the pride out of his voice. Very young and very excellent. Simon looked at him with naked longing. May I? Hodaka glanced automatically towards Umi, then towards Magarel. Jake saw him trying to look like a responsible adult and not a delighted accomplice. Umi, traitor that he was, only spread one pair of hands in a gesture of innocence allowance. If Nick wakes willingly, he said, I see no harm. Hodaka didn't even try to hide his grin. He pushed off at once and swam towards the sleeping Titan, moving with the eager confidence of someone about to introduce two friends he was sure would get along. Nick, he called softly over the local link as he approached. Nick, wake your nicer systems. We have a visitor. For a second, nothing happened. Then the biolights along Nick's hull brightened a shade. Not alert bright, waking bright. The great mech shifted, one massive claw twitching against the stone before settling again. His shroud lifted out of sleep in a slow arc, like a tide coming back in. Pilot, he said, voice roughened by low power mode. Status? Safe, Hodaka said. Camp stable, no threat, but... His delight spilled all through the song. There is a young Arkir here who wants to meet you. There was the tiniest pause. Then Nick's sensor cluster tilted, focusing with sudden, unmistakable interest on Simon. Ah, he said, properly awake now. That is not a sentence I expected to hear today. Simon's entire body lit with joy. She pushed off from the cooker circle without waiting for permission and stopped herself just shy of what was probably polite distance from the warden. I am Simon, she said in a rush. From Place of Rising Swells. You are very large. I am, Nick agreed gravely. You are very small. She's still growing, Hodaka whispered to him, scandalised and thrilled all at once. Nick's shroud brightened with what Jake was beginning to recognise as dry humour. As apparently am I. That did it. Simon laughed, a sudden bright sound that made everyone around the cooker relax all at once. Jake felt it keenly. After the creche, after the old toys and the handholds and the ache of imagining children who had vanished into history, the sheer fact of this one living, laughing and standing in the same plaza on strong fins and asking bold questions felt like a correction. Not to the tragedy. Nothing corrected that. But to the mood and to the shape of the day. Life had not ended. It had simply gone elsewhere and kept making curious children. Simon, unsurprisingly, had far more questions than any one conversation could possibly hold. Did Jake really come from beyond the world? Did people there have their own songs? Did they have Susella? Did his home float? Had he ever seen the true sky? Why was Echo older feeling than Nick? Did Titans eat? Do Titans dream? Jake answered what he could. Hordaka answered anything involving Nick with the enthusiasm of a street preacher. Nick, once fully awake, answered for himself often enough that Jake found himself smiling into his own bowl like an idiot. Should probably be Barnacle. I'll change that later. Around them, the rest of the camp drifted closer. Jabra listened with one claw propped under her jaw, pretending indifference and failing. The Podland quartermaster quietly slid Sivan a second helping without comment. Talia edged out of the worklights just enough to better hear questions about worlds with no oceans, her own shroud fizzing with alarmed delight. Eventually, Umi steered the conversation gently back towards the reason the small miracle had wandered into their camp in the first place. Sivan, he said, once the first rush of novelty had eased, we would like to know what you know of this place. Not to make you prove yourself, only because your home is near and local stories often remember what maps forget. Magarel leaned in a fraction, her drone rising over her shoulder to better capture the exchange. Her colours had gone calm and intent, all scholarly edges. Yes, she said. What does your village say about Chorax? Sivan's eyes shifted from Nick's huge, attentive face to Echo's quiet bulk, then to the broken dark of the city beyond the camp lights. Her shroud changed. The fizz of delighted curiosity remained, but under it came something older. Not hers originally, but handed down, repeated enough times to become part of how she felt the place. Caution, ceremony, the pleasurable fear of a story told in the right voice. She set her bowl down very carefully. When she spoke again, it was with the unmistakable cadence of someone beginning not just to answer a question, but to repeat something she had heard from elders, firelight, and memory. And that is the end of chapter 5. How are we doing, chat?
I think Blackfire speaks for all of us. This is entrancing, and Sivan is by far. It's like, yes, we love her. Thank you. Must protect child.
She will be protect. This is fine.
Very good. Must protect child. Must read. Get. Yes, get her a Titan.
Sivan Belmont, no!
Eric. I had things in my brain. Oh, well, yes. Applause. Many
yes,
applause.
yeah, I can see that you've made a couple of notes in here, and yeah, there's a couple of moments where, like, I had Nick twitch and his sensor array rotate, and that might not be appropriate. Of course, I was just writing Nick I was giving him body language. That's certainly something that can be edited if that shouldn't happen, and we'll figure out some other way.
It trails back to some conversation we had on channel earlier this week.
Yep.
So, with your permission, both Tyler German and Ed, who is not here, I think, at the moment, but possibly could be pointed out. You gave me homework last week.
I did.
To explain what is why do Titan even have pilots if they're their own people?
Yeah, why can't they move on their own? Yeah.
Exactly. That was my homework, and I actually sat down and thought about it for a second. And
fabulous.
The reason for it... wait a minute. Before I dive off the deep end into bleak, dark waters of brain things, chat, anything else? Something we should point out? I mean, I don't want it. This is glorious. Again. Child. Yes. Hello. More.
Child acquired. Yes, we have given the group an adorable.
Yes. We have acquired Bobble and the Goblin.
We have. Yeah, standing, swimming, okay, don't have legs. Yes, there's going to be a couple of little bits in there because at the moment I am just rough drafting it out, and there are going to be those little moments which I noticed that as I was reading it as well. The choice of word there needs to be changed to better fit what we're describing.
The cook.
What
The
did we have to
cook.
say about the cook?
I
can feed 10 more. Wait, look at me. I can feed 10 more, but that is not permission to bring back 9 additions.
Correct. We can afford food groups.
Yeah, if we
Coffee,
were on
beans,
land, that would
bacon.
absolutely be the 4 food groups.
I hunger for content.
Well, we've just read the last half of where we're at with our chapter 5, and we'll be talking about what's going into chapter 6 shortly. So content is slowly happening. It is coming along. If you did miss the reading today, the VOD will be up once stream is over. If you want to go back and listen to it, and etc. etc.
Once you answer that question, then you can start to answer the question.
What is the intention of the Titans from that? So I don't think it's going to come down to the intention of Titans. It's going to come down to limitations of materials, is what I was understanding from what I'd seen. Coral doesn't know how to move like people. It needs a people to teach it that.
It is even more complicated than that.
Well, I would expect it to be. But would you like to dive off the deep end and explain stuff to us? And I will drink this rather lovely orange juice.
This is my theory, and of course, Chad is quite welcome to pose their own. But why pilots? And the short answer is because time frames. Titans think in time frames that, even at the best of times, are glacial for biological beings that exist at time of us. Titan is Titans, one and all, are Shoal manufactured. The S of writing these words, no human with even the vague understanding of how to make a Titan. Titans are not a machine. Not exactly. They are instances of coral minds, powered and empowered to work in concordance with a Shoal pilot. Not and to a human, more like a human to a coral reef. Think about not the specific polyp in a coral. Think about the entire reef. Think about how long do things take for trees, for reefs, for algae. Things are happening so much quicker to us. Imagine thinking on the timeline of a tree and how fast can you react to anything, and the answer is not very, not really. Yes,
even when you get down to like smaller plants, for example, that lovely smell you get when you cut the lawn, when you cut the grass, you get that nice fresh cut grass smell, and that's actually the grass kind of screaming and warning other grass nearby that, hey, bad things are happening, sort of draw your nutrients down because we're going to have to regrow after this. To us it smells lovely, to the grass it's a warning signal. Well, that doesn't happen instantly. It still takes a little bit of time for that smell to build up and happen.
Okay, Dark Products. First of all, excellent choice of fall to associate yourself with. Welcome. This project it has been at work for a while now, and we have a fairly cool compendium that Lady Red has been compiling all the time. But I will try to explain this easily. It's an organic computer derived from a long-living, long-cycling system of coral-like machines. It will take them eons to react to anything that we will perceive as humans or Shoal, for that matter. The exposure since everyone, and this is important, everyone on this planet, including the coral, are psychic or psionic. They have the ability to manifest, to communicate on a layer that is deeper than sound. Think about it as though they have an electrical shroud that they can exchange certain levels of information through this electrical field around their bodies. The In order to propel a Titan, even a quickened and awakened one, into operating in time frames of that mammals or Shoal can understand, there needs to be a catalyst, something that can give them this time frame and allow them to work, essentially overclock them. And think about overclocking. Yes, overclocking is the correct
Yes,
word.
yes, pushing it beyond its natural limits.
Exactly. They're overclocking to the point where they can deal with us, with Shoal level thinking patterns. And this only happens through concordance. Concordance, spelled wrongfully by my typo and then accepted into the
we put musical
general
terminology
canon.
into everything, so we have concordance spelled that way with an H in it.
Exactly, because we put age in things so people
Yes.
will know we mean business.
Yes. It's like putting the E
Yes.
on the end if you're doing metal.
Exactly. It is definitely has a drawback. You can't stay in the pilot seat for too long. The Titan's mind isn't built for it. They need to sleep.
If things
the
go
strain.
wrong, you could suffer nasty feedback. You can be psionically burnt out as a result of this. So yes, it is not the world's safest job, but it's relatively well controlled within the levels of the technology. And
Think about it as like piloting a high-speed jet. You can strain the frame more and more and more. And the stupider the pilot, and the more brave the airplane, because the airplane is sentient. Dick says you can show my placard to everyone.
I can. I'm allowed. I'm going to go and put it over in the Orcs. I will put it in the chat there. And while we are at it, I will drop, seeing as we have some new faces around, a link to our Discord. This is the auxiliary, the public-facing Discord of the Black Pants Legion. Please let your nonsense come and interface with our own. We have a grand time over there. There's something for everybody. And I will go down to the General Shenanigans chat and link the thing.
So yeah, the pilot is essential for Titans to react on our time frame. So here's one thing we can do for your body language. When a pilot is close enough to interface, they might be able to either interpret, or if they have a optic link embedded, they might be able to access some portions of the Titan's mind, even without sitting in the pilot. So this also happens. I bring news. You have a job interview coming this Wednesday. Congrats.
Oh, that's wonderful. That sounds absolutely fabulous. I will cross fingers for you.
I will cross, someone's fingers. I don't necessarily.
If you've got some spare ones on your desk, you still technically own them, even if they're not attached to you. So you can still cross your fingers for people. It's fine. Okay, and then nobody asks any complicated questions.
Exactly. Don't escalate to our knees.
Ownership is 9/10 of the law.
And I'm a lictor. I mean, I have the axe and everything. It's not merely for show. I do put it to work. Anyway, Roman Roman urge to
And
conquer.
we're back to Rome again.
I have to. I did spend 6 years studying the assholes. At the
You
very
did.
least, give them some portion of my attention. And with that in mind, this is my explanation as to why Shoal need to be in the pilot seat. They are there essentially to let a Titan react on a Titan that's appreciable for us. And this allows us, and like you said, if we want to give them, if we want to give them the ability to communicate, it is through a synoptic link, by which they can, for a given level of strain, respond. And also, they do have rudimentary sensorial capabilities, just like polyps in a coral. They do react to the surroundings via colors. The the bioluminescence, the biolights, you called it.
Yes.
The biolights will react even when dormant.
Yeah, so I think the best thing I can do is to take the mechanical twitching out of Nick and just use his biolights to indicate that body language that I was looking for.
Just add a speck of synoptic.
Yeah.
Just make the synoptic lens twitch towards him instead of just make sure you put this point and the rest will flow from there. And if anybody comes like, how did it move, blah blah blah, blah, because people, someone will make that point out this, but actually he can't look at it. And we will say we have actually tweeted about it for nearly half an hour and have made a decision about it, and it is actually within canon.
Yes, he can in fact do this. Trying to learn is always a good thing. I don't know quite what the quality of what we teach here is, but we certainly have a fun time doing it. This project has been ongoing for 1 year and 3 months. If you head to our YouTube page, should you be interested, I think that's the command. Yes, it is. We have all of our past streams directly uploaded there, and there should be a playlist for Shoal, and you can sort of see how we ended up where we're at now. We started with a blank page and the question, how many stars are in our solar system? And then built the entire setting from there upwards. It's been a good time.
I had a question in chat, though.
What was
which I did not get an answer. How large is Mern? How large is Shoal?
Shoal is roughly equivalent to Earth size, if I remember correctly. It is in the compendium. I can go and double check. It's not information that's sitting on my top of my head right now, but I think it's just slightly larger than Earth size.
I had the reason I asked was a derivative of Zorik's new. Was it done to the? Was this done on the Musket version? No, it was done with the same machine I used to develop my everyday systems. Also the same machine that gave us Kael, so you know.
And we're certainly not going to complain about that.
With that, I'm going to say that the reason I asked about it is about cryptids, because Zorik wanted to populate our setting with cannibalistic titans that cannibalize their pilots in order to remain sentient for a longer period of time after getting off on consuming pilots for the rush of being able to act in turbo speed. And what I had in mind is, it's okay if there's one of these things, a cryptid somewhere in the deep, but we can't have a population of these because we are not 40k. We are not trying.
I think we'd also end up in the position of, after it's happened the once and everyone's suitably horrified and it manages to slip away, that's the sort of thing that our Leviathan hunters would also hunt. It would be like, no, we've seen this happen once. This is terrifying. If any machine starts to go down that route, we will hunt it like the Leviathans.
Yeah, my reaction was Jabra would have a word with you.
Yes. I'm absolutely
Yes,
down for there being some horrifying Titan cannibal kicking about somewhere, though.
a Titan Wendigo.
Yep. Basically, yes, and it's going to sort of steal people to keep itself going, and yeah, that's going to be, yeah, that one scene from Evangelion that they keep remaking because they keep remaking Evangelion. It's going to be
I
that
don't
scene.
know. It's Depression, the anime. I really can't stand it.
No, no, and oh my god, the pretension. I mean, I enjoyed the original Evangelion when I was a young person growing up, mostly because I was thankfully young enough not to be able to pass half of the pretension. By the time I was old enough to understand, the other quarter of the things I couldn't understand when I was younger, I was like, oh god, no. And frankly, Razafon did it better and actually had a point. Anyway, but that one scene where Ava Unit 01 kind of goes berserk and feral that always gets come back to, which is completely cheapened the first time it ever happened as a result. We will have a Cannibal Titan that does stuff like that, and we'll make it way cooler.
Yes, because we have Zork
Yes, yes, Zork always makes
Eric
war crimes
and
worse.
Ty German and all of you amazing guys.
That might be something that will be. I'll bring it up to Doctor Who if he's not currently with us in chat. I don't know whether he's with us at the moment, but it might be interesting to have Zork have a look over the Blood on the Lens project. I mean,
Yes.
I think Evangelion had its place, and without it, we wouldn't have a lot of things that came after us. Because at one point, I did like it too. However, I think age and maturity, etc., changes one's perspective of things like that. And yeah, I definitely sit in a different camp now to when I was, say, 17 years old or however I was. Yes, and yeah, Evangelion did also very much benefit from being in the 90s wave of anime coming over, which was greater than the 80s wave, but nowhere near the diversity that you would then go on to get in the 2000s onwards. Fluids,
Okay.
fluids good. Lictor, drink some fluids.
I had a wonderful red wine chicken liver earlier today. So what I did was just keep the bottle.
With the straw in it?
No.
I need to find an image I saw earlier. It's of a lady with a wine glass that is as tall and as wide as she is, and she goes to take a drink from it and just pours it all over herself. It's great. I'm like, yes, I need wine in that size.
For reasons.
I'm rewriting
swear-
Hungry Like the Wolf. I deserve it. Chat, you will be very pleased to know that after we spoke last week, and you had one major request for me last week, which was find a way to insert the line, pay your bills, fucko. I have inserted the line, pay your bills, fucko.
The line has been inserted as assuredly as an Ilkhan invades Earth.
Yes, yes.
And these were words spoken.
Tired German. Okay, Tired German just said, indeed, only after I watched the OG Gundam did I understand that Shinji was supposed to be an extra bad Amuro, which says a lot because I have watched some of the OG Gundam with Aiden, who also gave up before the end, but I gave up even before he did because I cannot stand Amuro. I cannot stand the boy.
I haven't. I'm watching Iron-Blooded Orphans, and I'm having a blast.
Mo, I do not know how you're going to get a wine glass that size to me in one place. I'm not surprised you know a glass blower, however. Cannibal Titan
also
sounds
know a
like a
glass
great
blower.
threat from Blood on the Lens. Yes, yeah, I think having Zork look over the threats section when you're ready might be a really good idea, Doctor Who.
The Titan in the Who Done It, the Titan done it. That's actually a very
Who horrifically
gosh.
cannibalized this person? The Titan did it.
Are you paraphrasing on the clue? Because if you are, I love you even more.
They all
Yes.
did it. Now I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife. Clue is such a good movie.
It is.
Oh dear. Alrighty,
Okay,
so
since-
other
oh,
things
okay,
I want to
no,
cover
one
today.
moment, Doctor Who.
Oh, excellent. Doctor Who is having thoughts. We have inspired thinking, which is always dangerous.
The thonkening. The thonkening is happening. This is dangerous. This is where ideas come from, and as we all know, ideas are the worst babies. They take your life on their own, and then you never know where they end up.
Oh dear, Tired German has stolen the Night of Romance Reforged.
Really?
Please use this image for evil. Stick it in stupid places. Upset people.
I'm confused. I mean, I want to know. I want to know.
Oh, okay, and BB has also let me know that she is going to be 30 minutes late today, so we might have some extra time to play with, depending on, where we naturally get to.
Sounds amazing. Excellent. Breathing.
Amazing how we do sometimes actually talk to each other behind the scenes and pretend we are, in fact, a real streaming channel, which people like BB are. And then there's me over here like, does Lictor exist this week? I don't know. OBS doesn't know. Do you know, chat? Very professional streamer.
Excellent.
Hippity hoppity, I copied your property. Yeah, carry on.
Very good. It is how it's supposed to be. I've been using my machine to teach me how to program this week. It was crazy.
Mo, I will measure the Mothman plushie later and let you know. I will have to actually measure it. It is the size of a small child.
How small?
I'd say sort of 4 years old. It's about the size of a 4-year-old.
I see.
Okie dokie. So there were some other things I wanted to go over today. I definitely want to talk about some Hungry Like the Wolf. So let's look at some other things. Let's carry on from where we were at. So what I'll be working on for next week is the opening of Chapter 6, and we'll see how that goes. So I think Chapter 6 is going to open with a start with folklore from Saven's village about the fall of Chorax, including stories meant to keep people away as if it was dangerous, and which of course it used to be. Some of the stories will be moralizing, because that's just kind of how people work. To try and keep people away from places, you imply that they are bad places, even though of course the quiet outbreak there wasn't something that happened on purpose. The girl will also tell the story of how bad things that grow in Chorax, how if you don't listen to the stories and you go to Chorax, bad things happen and grow there. This will be really fascinating because the way that she tells it will not match anything in Mags's databases or anything that she's heard before, and we're going to use that part of the folklore to hint at the secondary problem in Chorax. Everybody who's there investigating it right now knows that it had a biopestilence issue that wiped the city out, and that's why Chorax is cold and dead and, nobody goes there still. And what they don't know is that, a century or so later, bioengineer refugees out of Solaeon, when they started actually clamping down on rampant genetic modification, came here to continue a genetic study that was now illegal, and we have the supercavitating underwater Valstrax babies. This is going to hint towards that, and that there was a second issue in the city, which will obviously be fascinating and is our sort of hook and draw point that we then get to call back to later. Just as the group is starting to ask Sivan about the origin of that story, she realises the time, because there is an aggravated and worried Shroud approaching. It's her father. The dad shark will join the group. He's the grumpy father stereotype, but without the extremes of the trope. He doesn't get aggressive with the expedition and stays long enough to eat too and add a little more context to their conversation and about Sivan's home. He warns the group about Chorax's dangers, stating plainly that the stories might just be stories, but they cover for very real danger. The expeditioners should be careful, but he lets them know the village had its Temps archive stolen recently. Last they saw the pirates responsible, they headed into Chorax. No one saw them come out. He warns that the pirates might still be in there, so be careful, and if they aren't, watch out for whatever killed them. And then there'll be sort of an undercurrent of, and if you happen to find our vastly important and valuable missing archive of our village's entire legacy, we'd like that back. Then he takes Sivan home and the group beds down for the night. I think that's going to be our opening to Chapter 6. Let's see what chat is
Roughly
saying.
2.5 scenes. That sounds like enough.
Okay, fair enough, Mo. How certain themes work and others don't. Maybe even better by the director of Ava not being able to take criticism. One of the things that I will always be grateful to Evangelion for is it is directly responsible for Tengatoppa Gurren Lagann existing. Because some of the artists who worked on Evangelion were so fed up and depressed and done with the director by the time that the original run was done, they cleared off and just wrote the most uplifting, humanity, hell yeah, mecha story they possibly could, with zany, over-the-top characters and etc. And the world would be a far worse place if Tengatoppa Gurren Lagann did not exist in it. So is Chorax Atlantis, Innsmouth, or a relay scenario? Yes, it is all of these.
I mean, yes. But also, yes.
Shark Dad is creepy old dude saying don't. Yeah, he is effectively going to be our doomsayer. Yeah, in horror you always have your doomsayer characters. Oh, don't go into the woods, don't go to Camp Crystal Lake, etc. He's effectively that, only, you know, not horrifically horrible to talk to and telling people to get off his lawn.
Also,
Gurren Lagann,
just to
because
be
fuck your nihilism. Yes.
I love Tengen Toppa. I did
Me
not
too.
believe half of the hype, because the person who hyped it for me was not very trustworthy, and was far more vested in the fact that some of the mechs had faces and some did not, than perhaps the messaging. But yeah, no. If you haven't watched Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, well, I am happy for you, because it means you get to watch it for the first time.
Which is that's what is definitely on my list of things I wish I could erase all memory of just so I can experience it for the first time all over again. There is one thing with Gurren Lagann that does get on my nerves, and it's not a horrendous thing in itself. Part of the story arc with Rossiu, I feel like they handled part of it poorly, where it just took too long. And then ultimately there is a moment where Simone has a moment with Rossiu. Those who've seen it know when it is. And I feel like Simone took the action he did for the wrong reason. It was the correct action, but for the wrong reason. And it's not what I would have said to Rossiu in that moment. These are not horrendous criticisms. This is completely fine. And when they went on to make Kill la Kill, they really learned from the don't drag certain parts out too long and turned that into an absurdist joke in Kill la Kill. And I also adore Kill la Kill because it is such a wonderful send-up of the genres it is parodying. It is both straight-laced and a complete joke the whole way through, and I absolutely adore it. And I shouldn't, because when you look at it on the surface, it's like, oh god, it's just fan service. This whole thing is just fan service. And then I sat down and watched it and was like, no, actually, this is genius. This is amazing, and I love this. It's the same guys.
Pretty people sell. Doesn't mean you can't sell good stories with them.
Yes. Kill la Kill is a very anime. Yes, it is, and that's half the point. It's so clever. It's one of those things where if you watch it on the surface level and you don't dig into it, you can enjoy it. If you watch it on the subsurface level, where you know that it's a send-up of certain tropes because you're familiar with the genre, you will enjoy it even further. If you then dig deep enough to sort of think about the meta-commentary that the authors are filtering through those two layers, it becomes genuine genius. I'm very, very fond of it. Didn't that group also do Panty and Stocking with Garterbell? I don't know, and I've never watched Panty and Stocking. It's one I really should give a try at some point. Doesn't surprise me a bunch of his crew were fed up with him. That was the guy who, in order to assuage his brooded ego, blew millions to make a movie just to get the fans a middle finger. Yeah. It's what we call auteur syndrome. There are certain people in the world in creative fields who will be genuine auteurs. Who are that eccentric, special kind who have this very weird understanding of themselves, people around them, the art form that they're working in, and will produce just almost outsider art. But it works, and it communicates something to your average person. Then you will get people who think they are auteurs and attempt to produce like they are auteurs, and they are not. They are narcissistic, pretentious fools who do not understand their own limitations, are incapable of hearing the word no, and when they are allowed to run wild with a project, it never ends well. And this is one of the issues with, at some point we're going to have to talk about the Lords of Shadow Castlevania games, because I have opinions on the plot arc that goes on in that. And my opinions are unfortunately undermined in that I can't just tell people, go play the games, they're genuinely worth it because this has a great narrative, because the director in 2 was given too much leeway and thought he was an auteur, and it really shows in the game. But that is a rant for another day, because I have many varied, complex and extensive opinions on Castlevania Lords of Shadow, the genius that is Gabriel Belmont's character arc, etc. So,
I will point out, chat, that it seems like Lady Red, for the umpteenth time, seems to have opinions.
it happens sometimes on this stream. It's the strangest thing. It keeps happening.
I know, right? Terrifying sometimes, but you have opinions.
I do have opinions.
And we accommodate them.
Yes.
Because they are, for the most part, interesting.
Okay, so that is Shoal for this week. That is what you can expect next week. Is the start of chapter 6. I think that will be fun. There was another conversation topic I wanted to have, and we'll let that take us probably to the top of the hour if it goes that long, and then we've got some sort of closing stuff we can have a look at. Maybe we'll just throw my original timelines out the window and read some absolute nonsense today, because why not? I wanted to have a talk about risks of communal settings, the curse of time, and the importance of the end. We've talked about the importance of the end on this stream before, many weeks ago, but we have done it. But there was something that came up this week that I was like, I want to have a discussion with chat about this. And hopefully you guys will find it informative and interesting, or at least be able to have opinions back at me, which is always welcome. So, I am working on a rewrite of Hungry Like the Wolf. Hungry Like the Wolf is the Battletech romance novel, and I had an extensive list of criticisms for it. The major one of which was, this is a half-ass shitpost, and we do whole-ass shitposts around here, which is why we're doing a rewrite. But one of the things... Yes, I mean, Lichter can tell you. Lichter has seen my breakdown of Hungry Like the Wolf. I have spent thousands of words analysing this like it is a proper book, analysing the characters and the issues with the way they are depicted like this is a real book. I have done all of these things in many thousands of words so that when I started the rewrite it would actually work well. And part of that was obviously taking the time to do something that I fear the original author did not do, which was to go and actually look at the character. I went online and I decided I was going to spend the time and read all of Alaric Ward's article on Sana, which I have not done before. I'm admittedly not as deep into Battletech as I probably should be. I am intending to fix that over time, as long as I keep getting time to actually read things. But I went and actually did a dive into the fullness of his history, not just the bit that I'm currently dealing with. And obviously I'm coming at this knowing that most people aren't fond of Alaric Ward. They consider him poorly written in many occasions where he appears. The words Mary Sue and Clan Wolf at the Ultramarines of Battletech often turn up. There's all of these things, and I have no reason to believe, of course, that people are incorrect about that. There's a reason that a lot of people are going to come to this same decision. What I found really interesting was...
Conclusion.
taking it in a vacuum, just looking at Ward as somebody who doesn't have the extensive knowledge of Battletech that many of the people I hang around with is, it was really interesting to me looking over his history and just the nitty-gritty of it, that there is so much to him that standalone should make for a really interesting character. And I was sat there and I was chatting with Aiden about, there's this bit from his history and this bit from his history, and you could do something really interesting with this. And Aiden was sort of sitting there, and we came to a realization as we had this long and winding conversation yesterday, while I was doing all of the research and prep work I needed to do, that the problem, surprisingly, isn't actually Alaric Ward. The problem stems from somewhere else entirely. And that problem is repetitive use of the same reveal. And every time you do the same things over and over again, you deaden interest. If you write the same... we said it earlier, the Berserker scene with Ava Unit 01. It's the first time I ever saw that was visceral and cool, and it had an effect, and I noticed it. It was wow. And they then did it again in their first set of remakes, and then again in the new stuff. It just keeps coming up again and again, and it's got to the point now where the original time I saw that and my emotions I had back then, I now discount. That is no longer a cool thing because it is just a trope that makes me roll my eyes. And even when I think back to the first time I saw it, I still roll my eyes. It's only because I'm being analytical that I know that I had a different reaction, back before all the repeated occasions have happened. And that's effectively the issue, is Clan Wolf, their history is the problem. Big Red did a whole thing on it that's way more eloquent and detailed, etc., than anything I'm about to say. But the breakdown that Clan Wolf just has all of these fortuitous things happen, even when they've had consequences, and it turns them into a Mary Sue clan. At a certain point, if you've had the same sort of cool plot points or deliveries or reveals, and you've done them like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, it doesn't matter how well you write the 8th time, people who know about the previous 7 times are not going to find any interest in it. But if you bring in somebody in a vacuum who has no concept of the previous 7 times, and they might see something and be like, wow, I don't get why all the hate. And that was sort of the situation Aiden and I were in yesterday, and that sort of led me into thinking about the issue with communal settings. And it's not to say communal settings are a bad thing, otherwise we wouldn't be doing Shoal. The most egregious example I can think of is, of course, Games Workshop, where you start out with a passionate group of people who make something, like we're making Shoal now. And it gets popular enough, which I'm not saying Shoal will, but it gets popular enough that you have something that's ongoing. It's presenting a unique medium that people want to engage with. And as this thing grows, especially over time, you end up in a position where you have to bring more people in. Whether that's because, the original creators, as things evolve, maybe do not have the same ideas and some of them fall off and go and do other things. Whether it's because as people get older, you have people sort of retiring out from creating and you need to bring new voices in. Whether it's because your project has now expanded to cover so many areas, you need to delegate people to handle certain things. We already have that with Shoal. While the majority of the project sort of sits under my technically guiding umbrella with Lictor and everybody who pours into it, the humans, it's very clearly Ed is the director of humanity for Shoal. Eric is the director of religion for Shoal, and Zork is always available with extra war crimes. So, we've already got some delegations in our project, which is only a year and a bit old. And if you've got everybody on the same page and everybody is working towards an agreed and communal goal, that's great, especially if the people who are involved are genuinely passionate about the project. But then you move on a decade or 2 decades or 3 decades, and you've now got people coming on board creating who have never met the people who had the original ideas, whose perception of the setting might not be built out of where the original creators were coming from, but instead based out of an enjoyment or a nostalgia of what it was like for them when they were young and experiencing it when it was in those people's hands. And you can get all kinds of issues that arise from that. You can get people who sort of hero worship people who came before them and want to follow that. You'll get people who will see, well, this thing was really successful, you know, in this particular time period. We can retool it for this time period to make money. You'll get people who come in and think, well, when I was young and playing this, I really wish the story had gone in this direction. Now I have my hands in the pie. I can make the story go in the direction I wanted it to. And you start to get sort of a drift from where things started. Sometimes that can be good. Sometimes you can get ideas that come in that push a story where nobody ever expected it to go before, and it can become very, very interesting and engaging and open up a whole new line of creativity, and sometimes inject, you know, fresh passion into a very staid and boring setting that's kind of, you know, gotten stuck in a rut. Sometimes that can be great. Sometimes it can be catastrophic, where you have somebody come in and they take things off the rails for their own reasons. They do not have a clear path to long-term sustainability, especially when you've got people coming in who are more concerned with following either their own ego or money making or something more personal they've got going on that doesn't take into account the effect on the audience. We see this so clearly with Games Workshop and 40k. 40k to me really appealed to me probably at its height would have been around the late 2000s going into the 2010s. Not because stuff before that wasn't good, but because that's when it like truly entered my sphere of knowledge and engagement, and I was at a point where I could have an appreciation for a lot of the very over-the-top gothic art. So that was when I started really getting into it, and for me, I was a Dark Eldar player. I'm sure that comes as a shock to precisely 0% of you. I loved the original Dark Eldar. I loved the ability to go into a store that was typically very male-coded and just hang out with the lads, which I've always found more enjoyable, and have a good time. And you know, the models were interesting. I could do ridiculous things with them. And this was around a time where we still had access to books that encouraged you to be creative with your models and sub stuff in. And it was great. I had the best time. It was absolutely amazing. And then it started really going downhill. For me, the biggest point, I think, where I noticed that there was going to be an issue and I was going to be ending up coming out. Yeah, Dawn of War. The Dawn of War series was really, really good. The original Dawn of War with when they first brought the Necrons in, the fact that they didn't speak and just had that ominous clicking sound. Oh, fantastic. Really, really good. Yes, get your elves out for the lads. Absolutely. But I got into reading Dan Abnett.
Don't worry. Next session. Next session.
Yes! There's a thing I need to show you after this, incidentally. We'll come to that.
Oh, really?
Yes. Somebody is making something cool, and yeah. You'll see why when we're off stream. Anyway, I started reading Dan Abnett, who I personally think is a fantastic author. I don't like all of his work, but the things that he does well, I think he does really, really well, and I definitely learned some things from reading him. Eisenhorn, fantastic book. The fact that it's written in first person, which is a style of writing that I just cannot, blew me away. Really good book in first person, amazing. I even got my mum to read it, and she loved it too. So, you know, great things. I read a lot of the Gaunt's Ghost books. I got punched in the feels repeatedly in a way that, to me, actually hit me far harder than anything George R.R. Martin did. I am not criticising George. People are very welcome to love his stuff. I think he writes amazing things. I just think the Song of Ice and Fire series is not his strongest work, and it didn't really mean much to me. Anyway, Dan Abnett had written this, you know, wonderful series of books, all of these interesting things going on, established characters that followed various elements that were available in the 40k setting. Completely fine if you don't like Dan Abnett. I know he's not for everybody. He is for me. He is one of my writers I enjoy. Completely understand if other people don't get along with that. No issue whatsoever. No one author's ever going to be for everybody. But then we got to a point where it was like, okay, GW has released I think it was 5th edition that came out at the time. I don't even remember now. And they just retconned a shit ton of lore. Suddenly, blanks don't exist anymore. Okay, what are we supposed to do with all of the cool lore that established that they do? Just pretend it doesn't exist. But some of my favourite books have stuff that mentions that in it. Yeah, well, it just doesn't exist. So you're just taking it out and not replacing it with anything? Correct. Also, all of those Dark Heroes that you absolutely... Dark Eldar heroes? All of the special named units who have these ridiculous gothic stories in Comora? Yeah, half of them don't exist anymore. There's no models, there's no rules, and we'll never mention them again.
Yes, the Ministry of Truth treatment.
Yes. And I was like, yeah, okay, I foresee an issue coming here. And then, of course, they released the 30k playset, which one of our friends got really into, was enjoying it. But I was looking at that and going, I have a horrible feeling I know where this is going to end. They are making a play setting that allows for the Primarchs to be in play. I am going to just watch my watch here and count down until they end up in 40k play, and oh, there they are. And oh, now we've got Primaris Marines. And now I'm going to watch my watch and count down until you're not allowed to have your original space. Oh, there it is. You can't have your original spacemen anymore. Your Space Marines. You cannot have them. And oh, look, the models are getting worse, where you can do less with them. You can't pose them as ridiculously as you could because it's easier to make bigger pieces that don't come apart. And oh dear. And yeah, at some point, Iden and I had fallen out of the setting enough that he sold his salamanders. He still has some of his Imperial Guard. I still have some of my Dark Eldar, but we sold all of our salamanders and got more money for them for the price of the case they came in than the actual models themselves, because GW had fucked the setting over so badly. And this was happening at a time where we weren't the only people doing this. It felt very much like a boot to the face for people who'd spent a long time with this setting. And I entirely believe that that is the problem with communal settings. They brought on board people whose focus was not why the setting was originally written, was not conducive to the end user experience, and was about business rather than creativity. Which is really, really, really sad. And you can see this in other settings as well. And I think Battletech does suffer from it. It doesn't suffer from it nearly as badly as 40k does. But you have multiple writers involved. You have these long-running big errors of stuff that have happened. And it has the same problem 40k has, is how do we keep this engaging for people to want to have fights in it that can seem like they mean something? Well, we just don't get stuck in a rut. And who are your idea guys? Who are you handing the idea guys off to decide what the shape of the next era of conflict is going to be? How much time are you giving them? And how much investment do they as individuals have in this setting and its storied history? And I think some of the stuff that we see with Clan Wolf, with the repetitive things that happen, with the smoothing out of consequences, I think it's probably coming from people, a disparate group of people who are writing for it. That concept of, well, this has worked before, so it will probably work again, and simple problem solving. Instead of it being, okay, well, we did this, but that means that we're going to have to make some changes here, and this is going to happen. It's easy to just sand down the corners and say it didn't affect this group that badly. This is how they recover from it, and we can kind of maintain the status quo in this next set of things we're doing, which is just easier to do. And easy to do is the death of interest in a complex setting. If it is easy, nobody cares. I have mentioned multiple times this year, probably last year as well, that one of my favourite things to come back to is Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat is a stupid premise that existed to push a violent for its time game so people could have fun. And it ended up growing into this much bigger thing. But it wasn't until, was it Never Realms or whatever the company was called? It wasn't until the team behind Mortal Kombat had written themselves into every conceivable corner they possibly could and had finally run out of ways around the problem that they ended up writing a really compelling narrative with great characterizations that I enjoyed beginning to end. And that was the one with Kronika, where they messed with time and they did a wonderful Shang Tsung DLC where he was just everything I have ever wanted Shang Tsung to be. And it only existed because they'd written themselves into a corner and there was no easy out. They had to get creative. They had to come up with some clever way of going from this no option position they were in, and it infused new passion. It opened up new avenues. You had a whole load of creativity that came out in the game with Kronika, and I loved it. We had a great time with it. Is it an Emmy award-winning story that deserves to be made into a bajillion movies and everyone should bow down at it forever? No, it's Mortal Kombat. But I liked the characters, I liked the overall story, I liked the presentation, I liked that the art team got on board with the story team so that the visual designs sold the characterizations we were seeing, and it was like an actual genuine work of creativity, and I was amazed.
Imagine how I felt when my girlfriend, back when I was in the army, was hook, line, sinker, and a few other portions into the Power Rangers canon and wrote fanfic for it. And then we sat down and read through it, and that was weird.
I bet. I have a friend who's really into Sentai stuff, and he really he enjoys it as entertainment. And yeah, it's just a weird world to get into. A very, very weird world to get into.
The Matrix, the way he chooses people, the way he molds them together. I never thought about Mortal Kombat, about how does it change you as the wielder of its power to become more like it. It is fascinating the sort of stuff they do once they have to explain why in the whole hell all of them act sort of weird and like that all the time. There was that very high value version of Power Rangers that someone did as a promo to a movie about a dark future of the Power Rangers. Somewhere deep in the internet from more than 20 years ago. I need to find it. Okay, no, you evoked something.
That's kind of what we try to do here, is spark some weird neurons. Yeah, the world is full of just interesting creativity that people can really glom onto, and when the creativity stops being the point, that's when whatever the project or product is, that's when it starts to die. That is when it starts to die. And it's more likely to happen the longer you go on, because the more you have to bring in exterior voices who weren't part of the original sort of through line that people were working to, and the more outside pressures start coming in on things. Because for all I'm sitting here, and it's very easy to be highly critical of companies like GW, to also throw some shade at Battletech, and there's plenty of other settings out there who have these kinds of issues. There is a degree of inevitability in some of it as well, and becoming a victim of its own success. When you get to the point where you are a international company that is making a product that people from many countries are engaging with on different levels, and you start running into cultural issues and laws and potential lawsuits that people might throw at you just because they want some money, lawsuits people might throw at you because they're actually in the right, because sometimes that happens. The concerns of a project can get vastly larger than when it was, three guys in a basement subbing in coffee tins for orcs and figuring out what the rule set should be. You've suddenly got a very different list of priorities and problems, and when you're going to have this larger scale stuff, you've now got a company, you need an LLC, you need insurance, etc., etc. The need to make money does become a part of what the project is. It has to at least be self-sustaining. I think it's when that tipping point hits where it becomes more about that than it is about the actual cool thing that it started out as. And sometimes that is where the words "the end" have to come in. We've talked about this mostly in terms of serial things, like TV serials that just go on for too long. You can see it in many media. There's anime that run on forever and ever and ever, which would have been better if they just finished after season 3. There's been sitcoms that just run on forever and ever and ever, and it would have been better if they'd finished after season 3 or 4 or whatever. You see it in movies as well. The Marvel Cinematic Universe probably should have ended when it intended to end. It would have had more meaning. Can you stop things? We've also talked about this with like comics and the big name comics.
Talked about this in one of my favorite book series, where I said, okay, the protagonist is literally sitting on the seat of God, becoming the power to judge other gods. We can move on.
Yeah. There are other stories where people have more space for growth to go to. It's the problem I have with things like the Superman comics, Spider-Man, Batman. Wonderful as it is to see people hit that "we've done literally everything, what can we do now" wall, and sometimes find a shining gem of creativity on the other side. But for me, I often feel like these IPs are just retreading the same ground over and over and over again. Yet the Simpsons problem. And you get to a point where, as we've said when I first started ranting about this and the problem with Clan Wolf, the more you hit the same reveals and cool things over and over and over, the less cool they become, to the point where the very first time it was cool, also you become jaded about it. I believe comic books can often have that problem, and that one of the best things that could probably happen to certain comics is that they go completely dormant for at least a decade before coming back. I think that would be interesting. But then you've also got the argument that, yes, but sometimes it's about knowing your audience. If you're running a comic for a period of time and you expect people to sort of grow up with it, but then grow out of it as they mature, and then as you continue writing it, it's aimed at like the next generation coming through, that is valid. I personally do not enjoy it. I personally think there are better options you can do with creativity, but I do understand it. It is valid, and clearly I am not the grand director of all creativity on the planet. That would be a terrible idea. I am an idiot. But, you know, that's an issue that comes there.
Well,
Can
you're
you...
the Knight of Romance Reforged.
Well, yes, also that.
You can be more than one thing.
Hooray!
If you take anything from today's chat, you can be more than one thing at the same time.
Yeah, there you go, chat. There's your moral for the day. We are now a Saturday morning cartoon. But yeah, can you end something like 40k? Well, not really. They can't really just easily put the end on it. And I don't know what the solution there is, especially when you're working with a company that is clearly over-corporatized, is dismissive, if not outright aggressive, about the fact it has customers, which it doesn't see as customers, it sees only as consumers. I don't know how you fix that problem. Battletech... I think there's space for some interesting things to happen. Iden and I were speculating about where the story could go from where it's currently at. He had some ideas about what he would do if it was in his hands that I thought were incredibly interesting, and I'd love to see that happen. Is it what will happen? I don't know. Does the Battletech team have the kind of people on board that would take those kinds of risks and chances and play with those ideas? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see with regards to that, but I do hope that Battletech continues to learn from some of GW's mistakes as, you know, this setting continues, because Battletech is fascinating. And I hope if Shoal continues, you know, if we continue doing things beyond this year, beyond next year, and etc. I'm not even beginning to imply that we'll have any of that kind of level of a success, but it's something that belongs to our community, and our community has stood, you know, quite the test of time already, and I do think it will go on for a long time. It would be lovely for Shoal to be in a position where we can keep it going in a meaningful and interesting way, and we learn from mistakes that others have made. It might be that we eventually come to a point...
Wait.
Yep.
Learn? Over time?
No, we're
That's
fine.
Responsibility. Oh, okay.
We have another hour before we need to clear space for the BB. She is going to be half an hour late today.
Okay.
So we are good.
Thanks. Yes.
But yeah, it might be that one day we get to a point where we need to say the end on Shoal for its own good. And if we do get to that point, I hope that we'll all be wise enough and on board enough to do that. But I think we've got a long time ahead of us and a lot to explore on Shoal before we get there.
Which is good, because I'm curious. We have stuff to do. I don't know if you've noticed. Shoal's a lot of stuff to get into.
God. The amount of stuff I have on my... You remember how I said I was having a quiet year? Remember how that's not happening?
You remember what I said?
I'm not very good at not working. I think Doctor Who was threatening me with being forced on vacation yesterday. Which kind of happened at the end of last year. It was great.
I see his point. Not gonna lie. Not gonna argue. Man's got a point.
I do like being involved in so many cool projects, though. I think Shoal is cool. Stuff I get to be involved in with the main BPL team is cool. Stuff for this channel is cool. I have a very cool thing I'm hoping to work on over the next week or so to do with the wrestling show. Because we put a surprising amount of thought into things behind the scenes for the wrestling show. Not all of it is complicated, but sometimes things come up and there'll be a flurry of brainstorming, and there's some of that is going on at the moment. So that's going on.
Could it be that you have perhaps whole-assed your shit posting?
There is never enough time in the day for shit posting. I will shitpost for the entire rest of my life and still not achieve every shitpost I wish to. This makes me very sad. But I infinitely prefer it to the alternative.
Very good.
Yeah, I think I'm involved in like 6 writing projects at the minute. So, yeah. Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to hop up for just a second and use the restroom, if you don't mind managing chat for me. And then let's talk about Hungry Like the Wolf for a bit, because I think it's time you gave me some dumb ideas, chat. And I want to talk to you about the concept of Ilkhan Alaric Ward at a harvest festival. I will be right back.
Yes. Yes, with the adamantium chair. I have heard on YouTube the whole Raelanor with a steel chair vocalized in song performance, and it was glorious. I liked it a lot. Honestly, what? Night Owl. What? Gork and Morgan is not going to face Big E in a cage match. I need to. There are things going. There are undercurrents here. Why are we? The only way for the game to end is one of the less to hit a win con. Big E waking up the wild was never reactivation to an good from that CTC. The way I do 40k for Lady Red and the rest of the crew in our Rogue Trader game is more along the lines of the world is too vast to actually explore in any meaningful way. Any looking into it as a story either ends up a 4K, a 4X game that's on a stellar scale, and then you're just playing Stellaris with weird wind conditions, or you can actually tell a story, but then you have to boil it down to somewhere you can spend enough time with characters to actually care and get something out of it. The real beauty of 40k is that it has everything in it. In it, it has everything. You can play a knight in armor, swinging a sword from a planet, being uplifted to the sky, meet a wizard, an actual literal wizard, not a tech mage, just a wizard. Form a group, be a whole bunch of dudes in an adventuring guild on a starship, and never ever figure out you're even in the 40k universe. That's the useful of it. That's the usefulness of it.
What I like about 40k in terms of playing, either Dark Heresy or Rogue Trader or whatever you're doing, is when you're sort of doing one of those tabletop type games, is for me it should be about what becomes meaningful to your character in a universe that doesn't care. How do you make something meaningful in... And that's, its own parallel for real life. And my character that I'm playing in Lictor's game, she has a goal. She knows what she wants to achieve. Once she achieves it, she'll set a new goal. And right now, she is just happy as anything that she stole an Eldar. And that's enough. I don't need to change the course of the Imperium. I stole an Eldar, and I'm going to learn to do slashy things. It'll be cool.
It's going to be. It's going to turn into a slasher movie night with two slashers watching the movie and having a night.
I didn't know which way we were going to go once, we had scored Kyle the Eldar. Were we going to go down the sort of very aloof and noble and etc. Eldar, or were we going to get something just a little bit different? And we have a popcorn-eating gremlin who is not going to find the fact that we watch Eldar fights for fun as if it's a wrestling match crude and crass and denigrating to his culture. He's going to turn up and narrate over them, and that's going to be amazing.
He did narrate over.
He narrated over the one that Mags and I were watching, but I can't wait for him to turn up on a Friday night when the betting pools are open and the entire officer class who can stomach this stuff is there. That's going to be way more interesting.
Yeah.
We have some fun on Saturdays.
To Orc Slayers, I actually like playing the Imperium as something that actually functions.
Yeah.
So to actually give some gravitas to the fact that sometimes it doesn't. One of the most aggravating things to me about the Imperium is that everybody are so over the top in how much it doesn't function. It simply has no weight that something doesn't work. It's because nothing works all the time.
Yeah, it becomes dysfunction paralysis. Like, why should I care? It's Tuesday.
It's like, okay, I mean, nukes every Sunday, and suddenly stars don't mean anything. Okay, I need to take a break. I will vent about current day events, and I don't
Are you having opinions, Lictor, on this stream? We don't do that, do we?
I have turned completely blasé to the idea of large bombs happening outside my window, okay?
Yes.
I am completely blasé about it.
Yes.
So, like people.
You have bomb-induced apathy. 40k has Grimdark-induced apathy.
Yeah, I'm just like, you'll get used to it, my sweet summer child. Now, get in a bomb shelter.
Oh dear, life. I'm not sure I recommend this whole aging malarkey. It's not good for you.
It is patently bad for you.
All right, let's talk about other things that are bad for you. Hungry like the wolf.
Yeah.
Okay, we have some choices here, chat. We have an hour. I was planning on just, waiting until April to read any of what I write this month on it to you guys, but we have an hour. I could read you what I have written so far. I definitely want to talk to you about some of the more egregious chapters in the extant book so that you can give me more wonderful ideas, like the janitor assassin and the pay your bills fucko and etc. that I very much took on board after last week. But it's up to you guys.
I got first seats to it.
You did.
It's hilarious.
You did. You had a giggle.
Really should.
No, it's okay, Doc. I'm not going to yell at you. You're fine.
You don't have to yell, but you can join. I mean, your company is very much welcome.
Do you guys want me to read to you what I've written so far, or should we just talk about egregious chapters and we will save it until April? What would you like to do, chat? What is your choice?
Can you manage your urges for 2 whole weeks? Can you? Can you withhold? It's the marshmallow test. Can you wait 2 weeks?
At some point you need to have a Ilkhan drunk on Redneck Hooch. I will add that idea into the Harvest Festival scene. That can absolutely happen. He'll probably need it after I expose him to a tractor pull.
And a funnel cake.
Yes, and the funnel cake. Where did I make the notes? Where did I make the notes for that? Okay, yeah, well, I tell you what we'll do. I know what we'll do. Right, where is my section where I will want to put this in? Let's put it in here. Ilkhan drunk on Redneck Hooch after tractor pull. Cool.
Lawnmower demolition derby.
I don't know I'll go quite that nuts, but... All right, let me close Shoal, and this should turn us over to Hungry Like the Wolf. In an ideal world. Are you going to do as I'm telling you, computer? Are you fine? Are you fine? Can we do this? Is everything okay? No, OBS has decided... Oh, no, there we go. OBS decided that you briefly needed to see my art program, and now we're here. All right, so... things we can talk about this week before we see if we do any reading. I have this page here where I keep notes from you guys and then delete them out as they become integrated and no longer needed. Last week I talked to you about how I broke down the style of Chuck Tingle, which are rules I have been trying to keep in my writing. I'm sure it's still going to have a lot of my personal voice in it, but I am trying to follow some of the Tingle formula where I can. Alright, so I did like multiple thousands of words that you're seeing here of analysis of this book. I identified problems. Problem 1, the characters don't change. They start angry, they stay angry, and by the end they're mildly horny. That's it, nobody cares. I then did a full breakdown of Darvendra and what doesn't work about her, and then Ward and what doesn't work about him, which required me to go and spend an inordinate amount of time on Sana. Problem 2, conflict constantly evaporates. At any time the author of the original introduces an issue, it's resolved practically immediately, or if it's not resolved immediately, it's either a red herring setup or the actual stakes that are involved are just paltry on the grand scheme of things. I don't think I will ever quite get my head around how you take, I want you to write in the Battletech universe when Clan Wolf has just taken over Terra, re-established the Star League, all of these things that are supposed to be happening that are like galactic level events, and all you care about is what is happening immediately around Unity City, and apparently the Ilkhan just has time to only care about that. I don't know how you end up there. I just don't. And to then just weaken all... Go on.
I don't want to be an asshole. Well, I am an asshole on this subject. It's just about it when this is the scope of what you can imagine being important.
Yeah. I mean, literally, you take the Battletech setting and reduce Ward's concerns down to, is my personal mech fixed? Will the harvest in my immediate area be brought in so that people in my immediate area can eat? And can I blow up this one petty bureaucrat from one company out of a bajillion on this one planet that's operating in this one city that I happen to be near, and I only care because of the one lady who also works there that I happen to be banging? Why are we down here in Antsville when you have galactic problems to deal with, sir? So there's that, and I figured out how I was going to solve all of that. Or at least try to. Problem 3, the romance has no arc. Enemies to lovers.
Vertigran, I'm deeply hoping that the rest of you have more thoughts than I do. Deeply hoping in my bones for your sakes, as well as everyone else's. Good God. Think more.
Wilf, that's the only explanation I can come to, which is just a problem. Yeah.
Zork,
let's see what else.
None of them are benign, but they are thoughts.
So yeah, problem 3, the romance has no arc. Enemies to lovers is supposed to go, they're in conflict, they're enemies, but they're curious about each other, which becomes begrudging respect, and then they realise, oh, hang on, I'm attracted to this person. And then one or the other of them reveals a vulnerability, the other does so in return, and you end up with commitment at the end of it. Instead, the real book, as it currently exists, goes conflict, attraction, occasional annoyance, sex, nothing. Which has no emotional stakes in it whatsoever, so I tried to figure out how that was going to get fixed, and I came up with some solutions to these problems. So, what I decided to do, I'm going to change Darvendra. She is no longer the not like other girls Mary Sue, because that's the joke with Darvendra. The reason she's written the way she is, the reason she appears the way she is because lol, isn't it funny there's a Battletech romance book? Lol, isn't it funny to hit all of the bad romance tropes? Of course she is a better than you, perfect Mary Sue who's not like other girls, which is fine if you're writing like a 2-page send-up. That joke lasts about a page and then she just becomes annoying. So, in the rewrite, she is no longer going to be just not like other girls, etc. She has just taken over as CEO of Crescent and Cross in the version that I'm going to write. She was endorsed by the former chairman, who stepped down after the bombing at Zurich killed half of their leadership because of bad intel. He loses a son in the conflict, so he steps down because he needs time to grieve and doesn't think he can work with the new regime. And he endorses Darvendra because she is young, she is idealistic, and she is open-minded to new ideas. This gives her space to grow. It gives her space to make mistakes that can be recovered from, but also use her unique outlook to solve problems that would not necessarily have been solved before. If she gets endorsed to that role over older leadership like Kin Lu, the actual protagonist of the book, this gives Kin Lu a better reason for being the way that she is. She's no longer just a random zealot out of nowhere against Clan Wu for literally no good reason, even though the actions she takes stand in stark contrast to what she thinks her ideals are, and thus she makes no sense. No, now it becomes resentment politics. She resents that Darvendra was elected to the role. She doesn't like the idea of things changing. She doesn't like experimental reform. She's very stuck in her ways because they work. And she also doesn't like that the planet's been conquered and she's less willing to compromise. Those three things come together to make her take more extreme choices than she would have otherwise. That now has teeth. So you've got Darvendra, reform, and being very naive and open, etc. Kin Lu is now resentment and etc. And Ward himself is a warlord representing brutal stability. We've now got a triangle. We can give this story some teeth. That is one way I'm fixing it. The next problem was I needed to fix Ward because he just doesn't bloody work in the book as it is. He is an android who just doesn't understand anything, which makes no sense. The conquest of Terra is not the first time he's been to Terra. Managing to get through the far side of this war is not the first time he's had to deal with inner sphere nobility. And we all know who his bloody mother is and all of the nonsense that's gone on there. There's no reason for him to be as idiotic as he is. So, whether we like it or not, we have to restore him to his canon. He's supposed to be an adaptive political predator, even if he's not well written within that trope, so we're going to try and bring that back. When he meets Darvendra, it's not, I don't understand human emotions, it's, you are naive and stupid, but I am kind of impressed by how dedicated you are to the principles of that naivety comes from, because that's kind of admirable, and my god, woman, you were putting some energy into this. We can then add... Gone?
The sort of, I can appreciate this level of passion, even if it's stupid.
Yes, and it's that then coming to the table, because there is something to be said for people who have hopeless optimism, for the ability for humanity to be better than what they are. That tomorrow can be a better tomorrow, despite the stark reality around you in the moment. And, no true sort of idealistic situation is ever going to come to pass, but always being ready to just treat every problem like, because you are a hammer, every problem must be a nail, also doesn't work. And that's what we want to try to work with these two characters, is have both of them accept the reality that, some of the realities that the other one represents. The real Alaric is busy building his empire while his body double gets involved with the stupid freeborn. That could have been one way to handle it, and then we could have had some stupid moments with that. I'm not going to go down that route, though. I'm pretty happy that I can manage the load I've put on my plate the way I'm going to do it. So my goal will be writing him better. Yes, I'm going to try. I don't know how successful I will be, and I mean, we're working with some interesting concepts. We'll see where we get to. We will see where we get to. That is the wrong thing. I need to be looking at this. Okay, so this also allows me to add in some thematic alignment. Darvendra is naive and she thinks on the small scale. Her life experience compared to Ward is completely opposite ends of the scale. She has had so little life experience in comparison to him. So she thinks of small-scale things. Individual people, farms, families, relief efforts, stuff in localised areas, but also being aware of the global network because the whole planet needs fixing. But that's her scale. Ward, meanwhile, is dealing with empires, galactic supply chains, political control, and a star-spanning war. And it's not just over because he happens to have put his butt on a certain seat. The politics is definitely brewing in the background, etc. He has concepts that are literally light years away from where Darvendra is currently at. The arc therefore becomes Darvendra learns why large-scale brutality sometimes exists and can sometimes be the more humane option. Ward, meanwhile, is reminded why small-scale humanity has to continue to matter. Thematic axis. The harvest plot we're going to fix, instead of it being Ward helping with farming because reasons and because the author wanted to have a really confusing conversation about how do Babby work, how is Babby formed, we're going to change things around a bit. Instead of it just being, my god, the harvest, you must beat your battle mechs into plowshares, it's going to be more along the lines of, look, this planet is going to starve, and you've got this set of concerns, I've got this set of concerns, we both need to use what we can do to fix it. As a relief agency, we know how to marshal the local operations in all the different areas to repair infrastructure, restore supply chains, get the roads open again, get clean water flowing. You, however, have co-opted all of our industry and agri-mechs and, refitted them to be able to help in what you're doing. We need them back. As we start completing this, you slowly start releasing that. It becomes political bargaining where both sides are bringing something to the table other than really rather small scale moralizing.
Other than naive moralizing to someone who has seen what happens when moralizing gets in the way of war.
Yes. So, we have that. Release this blade handle plant. Indeed, absolutely. So that's another way that I'm going to be working through to try and fix this. I'm also going to give the rebellion some teeth. So the rebellion in the original book is there's the concept of, oh, the planet's just been conquered. I'm sure some people aren't happy about that. There might be a bit of a rebellion. Some people aren't going to accept my rule. That is a problem. And it is precisely 0% of a problem until the closing chapters when Kin Lu manages to get hold of a very ragtag mercenary force with only one real battle mech and jumps up and down and tries to pretend she's important until Ward shoots her in the face with lasers. Is effectively what happens. And that's in the last chapter. This needs to be something that we build up more, that there is this tension, etc. And it also needs to be something that's more important to Darvendra because she's going to be in a position where she has chosen to help Ward restore stability to the planet, which, for all she says otherwise, is to a degree legitimizing his rule. Is that in the best interest of the people? Probably. Does that allow her to personally reconcile the concept that I have helped these people get back on their feet while people who, want terror not under the hands of an oppressor who's just blown half of it up are still processing that, and I totally get where they're coming from. And now he's suppressing these rebellions after I helped him fix his shit. Does that make me culpable? That's an actually interesting human thought. So that's what we're going to go for there. We're going to give the rebellion some teeth because it's going to make Darvendra more interesting. Finally, we need to fix the romance in this romance book because there is no romance in this romance book. There are a couple of throwaway disgusting lines about claiming people that are not based in any actual chemistry that implies any kind of consent or steaminess, and it's just weird and wrong, and it just doesn't make sense and there's no payoff. So he is the ruler of the galaxy in his own head, and certainly the ruler of everything immediately around Darvendra. She runs a planetary humanitarian organisation. they're not going to get married. They can't have a long-term commitment. It would detonate both of their careers, destabilize more than just their own lives to do so. There is no sane world where that could ever happen. So the only option is to go with temporal affection to fit the setting that changes them both, even though they don't end up together. They become important to each other's worldview, they teach each other something, but they don't become part of each other's life structure. We're going to go for a bittersweet ending where, while they might get together again in the future, we're kind of at the point where, they've learnt what they needed to from each other, they have this mutual understanding, but their lives are taking them in different directions as they must, and what's important is to take the care and emotional stakes and learning from this time they spent together into what will become their later lives. They will part ways, but they will never forget. That's the only way you can close this book with any degree of meaning. So,
We're so good.
that's how I have decided I will try to fix this absolute nightmare. And that, getting through all of that, breaking down the characters, breaking down where the problems are, figuring out what band-aids I can put over some of it, took me way more time than I want to admit that it did. Way more time. So, our options now is I can read a bit to you guys if you want. We can look at the structure of the actual books that you can add in some ludicrous things to happen. And don't worry, I haven't forgot about the Valentine's mode battle mech. I just haven't gotten to the chapter yet where that happens for me to write it. We will absolutely have the Valentine's Bachal. It's fine. That's happening. I haven't forgotten. I will work it in. So, your choice, chat. Would you like me to read to you, or would you like to have your own silly input happen first? What do we want to do?
Just point out to begin with that I think we should abstain as much as we can
Okay.
from the reading, so we can have more of it later. We already had you read us Shoal.
It's true, I did read Shoal
which was
today.
amazing. You
Is
did
there a
read
stack
Shoal,
poll yet?
and
No, but only because I haven't gotten to any actual mech combat yet. I've only completely rewritten 2 chapters, which in itself is impressive because in the original book, chapter 2, nothing happens in it.
I think you've completely skipped over the fact that you have given complete chapter breakdown for the entire book.
Oh yeah, I absolutely do. Yes, I did see your comment on the pig
yeah.
war.
I know you did, but they don't. And they're like, you have done a thing, and they should be punished for
I
it.
think I brought it up last week. An entire history lesson on shittily remembered, over-embellished history of the pig war. I'm not sure what's going to happen when I get to that point, but there is every chance that I'm going to work it in if it fits and would be genuinely amusing. I'll be honest, I am not the world's best at comedy. I just am not. But I do at least understand that amusement comes in pacing and timing. And I'm trying. I am trying to make sure that the pacing works. And I think the callback at the end of chapter 1 to something that's said halfway through it kind of works. And hopefully you guys will be amused. All right, let me bring up our...
Sure.
All right, here we go. So this was our breakdown of the whole book. Where I'd written out the premise. We talked about chapter 1 last week. You gave me some notes. Chapter 2, nothing happens. We talked about chapter 3. So chapter 2 in the rewrite is effectively chapter 3 in the original book. Because chapter 2 I just summed up as 3 sentences in chapter 1. So we've done chapter 3. Did we? Oh, no. I summed up chapter 2 and 3 in 3 lines in chapter 1. So chapter 2 is actually chapter 4. I suspect our book is going to have way better pacing than the original because it's not going to try and outstay its welcome like the original did. So we've done chapter 4 and I incorporated your notes and I did make the Australian delegate offensively Australian. He does make specifically Australian type comments and I've already apologised to Kai for it and that clearly means I've apologised to the whole country and we'll be fine.
That is the most British thing you just said this entire evening. And you haven't even mentioned tea.
I did mention tea in chat at the beginning of stream because Wilf was correct. You can't do literary stuff without a good cup of tea.
Okay.
We're going for dumb. There should be one. Go on.
I need to get I need to get something to drink. I'll be right back.
Absolutely. I am very happy to just have an over-the-top stackpole at some point. This is fine. We can absolutely have that happen somewhere. Have I apologised to Hosfey? No, I have not, but only because I haven't caught Hosfey yet. I will absolutely apologise to Hosfey for with no context. Have I apologised to Corbin as well? No! I haven't even told Corbin yet. But I will. Have we made less stupid by having the other team leaders meeting? So, no, what I did, Bully Snake, and I will jump to this because somebody did say it would be nice to have like a little sneak peek. Let me find just part of it where we talked about this. Scrolling. Let's see where we did this. Yeah, it was in this section here. Devendra cleared her throat. Thank you all for coming in person. Across the table, Fred Collier raised one hand slightly. The Australian director, now the most senior of the Southern Hemisphere operations, leaned back in his chair with the weary posture of a man who had recently spent 14 hours inside an aircraft and remembered every single one of them. With respect, Dr. Elstone, he said, I sincerely hope the new administration of Crescent and Cross does not develop a fondness for meetings about meetings that require people to fly halfway across the planet with worse than usual plane food. A few people smiled despite themselves. Devendra dipped her head apologetically. Fair criticism. Collier spread his hands. I'm merely saying that if I'm crossing the Pacific again, I'd like the agenda to contain something more dramatic than organisational anxiety. I'm sure you don't need me to approve your meeting arrangements. Devendra nodded. The reason you're here is communications. That stilled the room. We were not certain the Pacific relays would remain stable long enough to hold a secure conference. And if we're going to discuss planetary recovery policy, I wanted the Southern Hemisphere represented at the table. It would be easy for everything we discuss to focus on Unity City and its surroundings, but the whole planet is in turmoil. This should be about all of us. And then there's some more bits, and then later on he says, I'm in the area for 2 weeks, and then I'll be remoting in from Brisbane. So, yes, I did take that into account. And he doesn't start out offensively Australian, he works up to it. Real book. There we go, that's what we want.
We like books.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, no, I won't apologise to Corbin. I never apologise to Corbin. He certainly never apologises to me.
For good reason. We must agree on that.
Out of curiosity, Lady Red, what are we doing, if anything, about every chapter beginning with the name Devendra? I'm not worrying about that. I am not going to try and follow that trope. What I am going to do, though, is how much I was going off about the fact that, in good Battletech books, it makes sense that you have the Starleague Conference Center, Unity City, North America, Terra, the Carganate, 2nd of July 3151, 1845 hours. In a normal Battletech book where you've got different things going on at the same time and you want the reader to understand these are both happening simultaneously, so when the consequences hit one side that doesn't know about it, you can make use of dramatic irony, etc. How that makes sense in normal Battletech books, but makes absolutely no sense in this book, where between chapters like 3 minutes have gone past and we haven't changed location and we never leave Unity City or the Carganate. I'm planning on using that section to let my narrator voice come through. So by the time we get to the end of it, we're going to have things like Crescent and Cross headquarters, regrettably, Unity City, despite ourselves, North America, because of course, Terra, still, etc. I'm going to let that just become where I let my personal frustrations come out.
Frustration? Bad romance books? No. Literally. Say it ain't so.
So I'm going to play with that. Alrighty.
There's plenty to play with.
Okay, so let's get you guys to give me some ideas for Chapter 5, because the book does a whole load of stuff that doesn't matter in Chapters 2 and 3, and then Chapter 4 just crams in more than it should do, and then Chapter 5, it's, we're having battle mechs in this, so I'm probably going to just split the pacing up a bit and make it make more sense, but Chapter 5 is the chapter where Devendra is annoyed that she had to come out to the hangar base, to Clan Wolf base, instead of, Starleague headquarters, which was closer and would have been easier for her. Of course, the next appointment is Darvendra. When Ward gets back from taking his mech out to check that its little footsies are still working, he makes the idiotic decision to show the hostile Terran around the mech bays and then how his mech works. We talked about this last week, and you guys said that you wanted me to include Ward wearing heart-covered underpants. He pulls out a little cushion for her to sit on his lap. The mech has a Valentine's mode, and because she's also wearing heart undies, he mistakenly believes that she has entered into the trial of Valentine's, and that's going to be a whole thing. Is there anything you guys want to add to that? Because I will be getting to this before we are next here again.
Terrifying. What does the...
Oh, hi, Corbin! We totally weren't just talking about you, honest. Yeah, no, that's not Aiden. That's Corbin. The hanger scene, duct tape, so much duct tape. Okay, yeah, we can add in. There is an overuse of duct tape to fix just everything. Maybe an unrelated third character. So one of the things that we have going on with the rewrite as a whole that we discussed last week, we have Sarkhan Chance Vickers in this, and we also have Colonel William James, who for some reason has two first names, as a sort of aid and escort to Darvendra. In the original book, Colonel James only really turns up in the first chapter to be a victim of sexual harassment in the workplace because Darvendra kisses him to try and pretend she wasn't schmoozing on Alaric Ward, which is just gross, and we're not doing that. I have made Colonel James more of a sort of world-weary accompaniment that's trying to help her manage her first sort of year with Crescent and Cross before he also retires. And we decided that we were going to have a sort of relationship between Vickers and Colonel James. And this relationship wouldn't involve, you know, romantic boinking or any of that nonsense. It would be more, is your boss being an idiot again? Yes. Is your boss being an idiot again? Yes. Would you like to go and sit in a supply closet and play poker about it? Yes. So that will probably be happening somewhere. Also, unexpected assassinations that Ward just doesn't notice happening. The handyman's secret weapon. Duct tape, yes. Someone emerges from the ceiling vent, nobody is surprised. Yeah, it could very well happen. The emotional support relationship between second in commands. Yes, absolutely that. We are very much going to play with that dynamic. Alright, so I think we've decided what we'll do with the mech chapter. Chapter 6, they drop Devendra off at home, and Alaric insults her by implying that she's just trying to barter with him. Boring chapter. It's probably going to get cut and made into something more interesting. Alright, back at Crescent and Cross. This is the chapter where, in the original, Kinlu gets all angsty shouty. Devendra starts by talking with the Aussie delegate about her time with Alaric and that she's trying to educate him. She admits she thinks that Ward really believes he can bring peace to the inner sphere and that it requires superior firepower. She then goes and has a meeting with Fred and the whole board. She presents, you know, her proposals, and there's this whole red herring thing that Marcus Schneider, the European delegate, is why the Far East delegate, Kin Lu, or Liu, or however it's supposed to be pronounced, he's behind her being as angsty as she is. And it turns out to be a complete red herring. He isn't, and I don't know why that's there. And she ends up quitting and storming out in a rage. So that's probably not going to happen in the rewrite. I'm going to make it more clever than that. So we won't have any notes on that one yet. Okay, Chapter 8. I want your input on this one for definite. Chapter 8 in the original book is the one where Darvendra is showing him around the area because clearly sightseeing some pretty things will just, you know, turn him into a ray of sunshine overnight. This is the one that really got on my nerves because they go to what is clearly Deception Pass Bridge. It is poorly described, and we have this whole conversation about the War of the Pig, where there was a war where only one pig died, and it's just stupid. And in the book, Ward is like, you're bringing this up because you don't like that I kill people and you wish I had only killed one pig. And she's like, yes, that would have been better, actually. I hadn't thought of that, but you're right, this is a great analogy. And he's like, I wish I only had to kill one pig too. That would make my life also easier. And it's very stupid.
Sounds stupid.
He doesn't want to sightsee. Devendra says she cleared his schedule with Vickers. He's pissed that she went behind his back and collaborated with the Sarkhan. But then he sees the pretty fields and he does, in fact, act like a toddler with a pacifier about it. They get to the bridge. For some reason, they tentatively touch hands and then just kiss. I don't know why. There is no reason for it in the original book. There's disgusting lines in this section about she will be his, only she's the one thinking them, and it's kind of gross. She brings up the War of the Pig. She's surprised he didn't actually want to have to kill a ton of people, and just doesn't seem to understand that warlords are also very aware of logistics, and that, actual menial people to keep supplies flowing are kind of important. She then tells him about the issue with Kin Lu and thinks that he should be very concerned about it because Kin really doesn't like him. And he is appropriately warlord level flippant about it, like, she is a bureaucrat from a humanitarian company. I literally have bigger things to worry about. I'm not overly concerned. This sounds like your problem. It's one of the few times I actually liked Ward in the whole book. And then she gets furious and storms off when he drops her home. So, anything ridiculous you would like to add into that chat? I would also like to say that I am throwing the actual book around on my desk while I'm ranting about it.
Good. Physical therapy is important.
All right, let's see what chat has for me.
Yes. Bring us the weird. Please,
there is a duck. No one can explain it. Very well. Chapter 8. Let's add in some notes.
It's the memento from the lost duck.
There is a duck. No one knows why. We will add that in somewhere.
The motto was duck, duck, go.
One prefers dark deep rums, the other fruity flavoured liqueurs. Oh, yes, they have so much different about them. How will they ever get together? We should totally have a chapter open with the line, Ilkon Ward, I have come to bargain. Yeah, we'll see. The running gag is whose turn it is with the tab. Yeah, that should absolutely be a long-running gag. I'll put the note in here because I'll make sure I see it. Vickers and James have a long-running gag by the end about whose turn it is to pick up the tab. Reprise of the pay your bills fucko line. Okay, we can definitely do that. Note to self, only ever kill one pig. Yes, just one pig. one pig. In one scene, everyone is wearing their own clothes. After a small break, they all return to the conference room. 2 people have swapped clothes. I think that would be a bit... I don't know if I can play that off either subtly enough that it doesn't ruin the flow of the scene, or overtly enough that people would notice. I think I will break somewhere with that. We will try possibly to play some nonsense with clothing at some point, though. I would have put something in, acknowledges that Ward's schedule usually is filled to the gills and that she somehow managed to get him free for half the day. Yeah, if she's going to take him out for half the day, we need to make a point about that.
This is the longest they've been out of office or outside of a mech in over 3 years. How did you manage that? And then she can pull off, I'm a bureaucratic genius. It's like, this is the one thing she can actually pull off, this shrewd, super genius, I conquered the universe guy. And she's like, I can find you free. I can find free time, even in your calendar. That is a power move.
It would be very interesting. I say very interesting. Let me have a think. I might pull back. Do you remember when I wrote like what it would look like if I wrote this as like a serious romance rather than, you know, going down the comedy route we are now? And I had this whole thing about that, you know, she'd known the conference center and the office of the Star League since she was a child, and that she was upset that the flower bed she'd once found so relaxing had been replaced by the white marble statue to Kerensky when they interred him there, etc., etc. And I sort of made like an emotional way out of that. I might sort of do a little callback to that with her going, well, you see, I know the daughter of the maid of the chancellor who cleans the office up there, and I asked her to look at, which is sort of start pulling back into, she just really knows the people around him that he doesn't expect to be people with any degree of ability. So then I brought that to your Sarkhan, and I suggested that we could do this and this. Just really drive him up the wall. I prepared for assassins. I didn't prepare for Auntie Matilda.
Excellent, excellent.
Some boardroom intrigue could be interesting. What
worst.
does the European dude's real stance on the situation and why? Is he a person in mind to get the power for himself or something vaguely more moral? If I was writing a more serious book, I'd probably really dig into those things because I'd be putting, you know, I'd be extending this. I'd probably be making it into a much fuller narrative with more character arcs for more people. Because we're going down the sort of more comedic tingle route, I probably won't dig into that. I think the only person I want to have that sort of direct rivalry with Davendra for the position of power will be Kin Lu, because it reinforces her actual use to the story. This is going to end up being a relatively short book. I mean, it's in its current form, it's a novella, and with what it's got in it, it does overstay its welcome. I reckon by the time I'm done, I'll probably be around about the same length. But the difference will be is that I will have cut out the scenes that do absolutely nothing and tried to add in some more interesting ones in other places to sort of cover for those gaps and the giant holes in the plot. So this is really only going to be a novella, and I don't think if I start digging into those extra character details, it's going to come across well.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun afternoon read, not a book.
Okay. Davendra has managed to do this through leveraging the small people. Alaric was prepared for assassins and politics. He was not prepared for Auntie Matilda, who runs catering. There we go. That will make that chapter way more interesting. Alrighty, where are we at? We've still got a little bit of time. We can do a little bit more. Auntie, you should respect your elders, Ward. Lady, my forebears conquered planets and fought for fun. The fact that I'm talking to you is my respecting you enough. I would like you to know, tired German, that I have adjusted it so that in chapter 1, the whole reason that the slip and fall accident happens is because Ward decides that Terran warning signs are beneath him. So, do with that knowledge what you will.
Which I will point out, they are. He is not the one slipping and falling down.
It's true. It's true.
It's funny because it's true.
We do have a crowbar cameo in chapter 1 as well. Because we're going to do this nonsense, then, you know. We're going to do this nonsense. All right, let's look at one more chapter you guys can give me notes for. All right, in chapter 9, this is where, after Davendra has gone home all pissy, Chance Vickers, treating Alaric Ward like one big giant toddler baby, is like, somebody has not had his nap time today and is hangry, and you really need to just go and spend some time in The Sims, piloting your mech and blowing people up until you calm down, young man. You are not on form, young man, and you need to get into the battle pod. So that's basically what happens. This is the chapter with the simulated combat maneuvers, so Ward and Vickers can talk about his infatuation with Davendra, and we get some actual mech nonsense in this mech book. They literally go into a battle sim to talk about girls. He inspects his mechs again, repairs are going well, he muses on the fact for the first time he's held something back from Vickers, which is the fact that Davendra thinks Kin Lu is a problem that he should be concerned about, which is just really arbitrary and stupid. Vickers has organised a simulation under the guise that she needs to train, but she knows he needs to be doing something active because he is a toddler. They talk about Darvendra, they get into the simulation pods, both are leading a star of matching mechs because reasons. There's some bravado orders going on as an excuse to show Clanispeak. Woo! While the fight happens, Ward and Vickers are on a private channel talking about girls, specifically Darvendra. She says sensible things like, be careful, this has connotations. And he deflects because of course he does. The conversation is distracting him because of course it is. He tries to turn it back on Vickers by talking about the Terran concept of jealousy, which almost had me laughing out of my chair but for the wrong reasons. As if Vickers would give even half of a flying shit. Ultimately, the battle has no winner because the timer runs out because they were too busy talking about girls and Alaric didn't put more quarters in the machine. Vickers knows that even though he doesn't say it, he is distracted by Darvendra. My god, the drama, the stakes! And then he decides to tell Vickers about Darvendra's stupid boardroom drama, confirming it will of course be important by the end of the book, and that he is not, in fact, holding anything back from his Sarkhan. He's just telling her like half an hour late. Anything you want to add to that? We actually get to have, some mech nonsense going on. You got any good ideas, chat? Or more accurately, you got any dumb ideas, chat?
Do you have any specific mechs we can use? Something to spice it up, make it weird and fun. Maybe one of the mechs defaults into its Valentine conditioning for some reason. Maybe it's a weird callback to some sort of... I'm just thinking about the shape of the fight that's going on. That might be fun.
Okay, Guy on Broadway has an idea here. Tangent, but is there an insult non-clanners use to piss off a clanner who's outstayed his welcome, where you just graffiti the letters HB2C, somewhere they'll read it? This is in reference to the Hunchback 2C, which is designed to blow up easy such that an older clanner can die in combat, rather than suffer the shame of dying old age, i.e. the clanner in question is past it. We could absolutely fit that in somewhere. I'm just going to copy-paste that message onto my notes and I will figure out a way to work that in because that's actually kind of cool and clever and implies that we at least recognize that Battletech exists as a setting.
I am imagining a bondsman just standing there whose sole purposeful existence is holding up the sign showing these letters. Like, why do you exist? I hold the sign of your departure.
It will certainly be interesting to see how I can fit that in. But yes, if you guys have any ridiculous mech moments you would like to try and fit in, I will absolutely try and fit them into this this chapter. We will have further mech stuff later on, of course, so it's fine if you come up with something later. We will have more things to do. And we are still quite some way from the appearance of the Stealth Atlas 2, and I think you guys are going to have comments when we get there.
Can it have only machine guns?
Every NMech is its Clanbuster variant. Alright, I can't guarantee I will fit all of these in, but I will take these notes up, and if it is possible for me to fit them in, I will. I did fit in the ones from last week, and I was quite proud of how I did that. Alrighty, it seems we are slowing down and we are coming towards the end of our slot. Yes. Would you like one more tiny snippet read to you before I go away, chat, or shall I just go away?
Give them something to celebrate on. They deserve a little cheese in their trap. They've been good kids.
I'm just glad Corbin turned up after I was reading The Australian Guy.
I'm happy Corbin wasn't there when I was talking about the other stuff.
One more snippet. All right. Let me go up to chapter 1. We'll stick just in chapter 1. Let's see. Yeah, we'll read just this bit. Darvendra Elstone emerged onto the balcony rubbing her temples. She had escaped, barely. Inside that hall, there were 3 senators. Let me put this in before I forget that it should be there. There were 3 senators, 2 industrial magnates, and a shipping executive who had tried to explain grain logistics to her for 10 minutes. She needed air and she needed quiet. And possibly a conversation with the janitor, because the man appeared to be waxing a balcony floor, which was a workplace safety nightmare waiting to happen and definitely not OSHA compliant. She stepped forward. Ward moved slightly to let her pass. Darvendra never saw the sign. Her heel hit the waxed floor and the universe briefly reconsidered its relationship with gravity. She slipped. He reacted. Momentum carried both of them backward. For a brief moment, they performed a complicated sliding manoeuvre across the balcony that might have looked romantic if it had not involved panic and Newtonian physics. Ward's shoulder collided with the janitor's chest, sent the overawed man sliding across the polished slate until his knees hit a planter, gave out from under him and threw his balance and centre of gravity backwards. The janitor went over the railing. There was a distant yell. A moment later, a voice floated up from below. "Ah, the janitor assassin! I see you have encountered gravity!" Darvendra blinked. Ward steadied her. For a moment, they simply stared at each other. The conqueror of terror and the woman who blamed him for everything stood locked together on a balcony, both realising that they had nearly fallen off of it. History, Darvendra would later reflect, often began in extremely stupid ways. There you go. That is what you will get for today.
Thank you. Thank you, Crowman, for noticing our janitor assassin.
Yes, I wasn't going to try and do the voice because I can't, but if we get real shitposty with this shitpost, at some point I might gather the usual suspects to actually record voice lines for this in voices, and I will absolutely get text to read that.
I want to read some of that.
You could absolutely read some of the stuff that is in this book. We will figure this out. We need to do an audiobook. Yeah, I think an audiobook could be quite fun. And remember, later this year, if we write something like Real Housewives of Solaris 7, Tex has promised to copy edit my next erotica novel. That I haven't forgotten. I don't know if he has, but I haven't.
That means I'll have to finish a few of the projects.
I nominate Ducks for the comment on the janitor. We will see. We will see. I'd love to get Tex to the Crowbarn voice for it. But yes, we have access to a wide number of people and an infinite well of shitposting.
Exceedingly talented.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Between both the BPL and the Orcs, and a vast number of very talented people.
Alright. So, here's what we do. It is
Welcome
now...
in, Blackmouth Giltep. It is unfortunately the end of my time here. We have 10 minutes until BB joins you all. A whole lot of people with a whole lot of asses they can shit. Yes, we whole ass our shitposts around here. That is what we do. BB will be here in about 10 minutes. I believe she's continuing what she was doing last week with Diggs. I could be incorrect, but I know she will be along to entertain you all very, very shortly. Oh, hang on. No, we haven't had an update.
Cheers.
Okay, BB has some real life stuff going on, so Diggs will be covering for BB. She does send her apologies, which I'm sure Diggs will also pass along. She was hoping to do some more Reanimal with you guys, but she will not sadly be with us this week. So next week, hopefully next week. But you will have Diggs here shortly, which just means, you know, it's... double the time that I get out of here because Boss Bear has the big hammer and I do not want to get bopped over the head with the big hammer. So thank you all very, very much for coming along to my absolute nonsense. Thank you, Lictor.
It was very normal.
It's very normal nonsense. We did nothing weird here.
Everything just happened as it should be. Thank you and goodbye.
Yes, we have Rome to go and sack. Mo will be in contact. Chat, be good to each other.
Yes. Bye-bye.